Hey, and welcome to the Nostalgia Train Book
Hola.
Club live discussion for what are we reading? City of Bones by Cassandra Clare.
Yeah, that book.
I think this is actually going to be the last book club discussion that I actually host on my channel, Writing Violet. And then I'm going to switch over to the new book club
Started
channel
off with The Hobbit.
for
So excited.
December with The Hobbit. So I know everybody's going to be watching the replay. This is going to go super viral. So to everybody who's watching, subscribe to the
Oh no.
book club channel.
Told my husband he needs to make sure that he finishes The Hobbit before I get to December, and he's like, "No, I'll read it at my leisure." And I'm like, "Then you're gonna lose your spot
Because I'm taking it away from you.
because I'm taking it in December."
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say it's been a while. It's been a month since I've done a book club discussion, and every time I forget what I'm doing. What am I supposed to say? Oh yes, we introduce ourselves and our history with the book. Yeah, so yeah, I'm Violet, and this was my first time reading City of Bones. Well, not necessarily.
Wow.
I tried to read it, I think 2 times before and DNF'd.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first chapter, just wasn't getting into it. Don't know. And I actually kind of had been like, I'm never going to read Cassandra Clare. She's one of those authors I'm never going to read. And I tried to read one of her other books, the prequel series, I believe, to this.
Clockwork Princess.
Yes, the steampunky one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also DNF'd that.
I actually like that one.
So you and
See,
Miss
I really-
Claire just weren't meant to be.
Yeah, I really like steampunk, so I thought, oh, that's going to be the one for me. But I did. I pushed through, and I read this. I have such an ugly version of it.
So bad.
Yeah,
That's
so
such a late or early 2000s cover.
yeah,
Mhm.
movie title. Now you see why I'm going to donate
With
it
the
now
movie
because
title on it.
not going to keep it around. Sam, would you like to introduce yourself and your history with the book?
Yes, I'm writing mom, Samantha Ellen Asset, on my channel. I talk about writer things, parent things, writer, parent things. You can check out all my stuff on my website. I try to keep this brief for here. As for my book, my experience with this book is kind of funny because when I had my oldest, I went to the hospital for a checkup, and just in the waiting room there was this older lady, and she's like, "Oh, hey, do you like to read?" And we started talking and stuff. I'm like, "Yeah, I love to read." And so she gave me the entire Mortal Instruments series, and because she was just gonna like donate it and stuff, and she's like, "Well, here, you can go ahead, it'll give you something to read while you're recovering from the baby." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." My mom came and stayed with us, and she is a far more prolific reader than me. Well, she started reading it, and she was like, "Sam," and she told me a little bit about it, and she's like, "But I think they're brother and sister." And I'm like, "Hold on now. What?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, and then she finishes book 1, and she's like, "Yeah, it's okay. Hear me out. It says they're brother and sister, but I don't like." My mom's good at picking up on certain things, so she's like, "But there's something sketchy with that. Some things aren't adding up." And I'm like, "Well, you can read the whole series and get back to me on that."
Yeah.
And she did. She read it. She reassured me that they, in fact, were not actually brother and sister. And that, but she's like, "But it fucks with you for a while." And I'm like, I don't know if I'm cozy with it fucking with me for a while. So I never actually read it. And yeah, I just kind of forgot about it and then merged it with other titles that end in bones for a while, like Shadow and Bone and a couple other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw the cover and I was like, "Oh, I know you."
And all
But
the
I
other
don't
City
know
of.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen the movie, which I liked the movie. But
Wait, this one is the movie, right? The one with these.
Yeah, that's
ones
the
that
movie.
I have.
Yeah, that's
And
the
the other
movie.
one with the like orange wig is the TV show, right?
Yeah.
Or is maybe it's not a wig. Maybe that's her hair. I've seen photos of that too.
No, that's her
Never
hair.
seen the
Yeah.
TV show.
Okay, because I also listened to the audiobook alongside this, and in the audiobook icon was of the TV show cover. So I had the movie tie-in cover, and the audiobook
have to
emblem
look.
was the TV tie-in
Yeah,
cover.
the audiobook one is the TV one. And that annoyed me so much. I hate when it's one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate when there's like adaptations and sorry, I haven't even introduced myself and I'm already griping. I hate when there's adaptations. They change it like to the adaptations, like imaging, and I hate it. I'm like, I refuse to buy the books with the new adaptations imaging on it. And so I was so mad when the library was like, here it is, but with the movie or the show's thing, I was like, you're lucky it's the library.
That's why I didn't recognize it for the longest time, and I forgot I think Anne has
because
it
the
with
original cover was the shirt with just like
Yeah,
half
where
his
there's
chest.
just-
It's like his
yeah,
chin
it's just
down.
a three-quarter man. So, and I
Yeah.
think Anne held her copy up, and I was like, I know you. I know that book. But yeah, so this was my first time actually reading it.
Yeah. Well, I'm Casey. I guess I now do journaling content on my channel, and I may dabble in timers here and there. I don't know. Depends on how much I actually feel like sitting there and making them. Holy crap, they take forever. Kudos to you, Violet, for doing that all the time. This was my, I want to say, second introduction. I'm not sure if I read it a time before then, but for sure second, or more than one, for sure. And I've read the whole series, and I've also read the prequel series twice, I think. And so I'm definitely a little bit more versed in like her little area or whatever, but yeah, reading it this go around was interesting. I definitely found myself rolling my eyes a lot and cringing a lot.
I read this and I was fueled with such weird, giddy energy. I was like, this is such messy teen drama.
Like, this is so bad. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
we'll
I
get
did it
there.
to make you jealous.
I actually, controversially, I actually thought it was very well done. I actually think
I
it's a good
liked
book.
it, but it was just, I was like, oh my gosh.
It's just also, I'm like, this is why my mother loved it. Because, like, for context, I grew up and we were not allowed to talk to my mother during her Jason hour of soap operas. If Jason was on the TV, I don't even know the name of the soap opera that he was on. But like, so I was like, yeah, soap opera. I'm like, I see why she loved the series so much. But yes, so
Soap opera energy for sure.
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm going to say hi to the chat. Michael's here. Michael, I think you dodged a bullet by not reading this book.
Yeah, I don't know if Michael would have enjoyed it.
Hey, cool gamer. Lexi says at the agency, keeping you on in the background, sad face.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you don't have tolerance for teenagers, you will not enjoy this book at all. Because that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons I think I was fine with the book and I actually like the book. I like teenagers; they're fine, but I know a lot of adults who like just can't with teenagers because they're teenagers. They do.
I was literally thinking to myself, almost the whole time, like, where are the freaking adults? Like, where are the damn adults? Like, the only
being
adult
hidden
in the freaking
institute.
Called a sanctuary. It's not a sanctuary. Institute. The only adult in the institute is Hodge, and he's not even allowed to leave. He can't even leave. So these kids
they were all in
New
Idris,
York City,
which I apparently misspelled in my notes. It's with an I. I spelled it with an E.
Oh, I knew this discussion. Look at it. It's already going.
Well, and apparently, like, I was bitching in the Discord about how they pronounced mundane, but I guess that they do say Monday in the books.
Well, it's two different words.
It's always like
mundane and then mundie. Like when there's
but they kept
like,
using them interchangeably.
Mundie is the derogatory form of mundane.
Yeah, they would use them interchangeably. And so at first, like the first time she said like mundane, she instead of like, or like in the first time it was mentioned in the books, like what they call the humans or whatever, it was from like, I guess, that demon's perspective. And so he said Monday because, like you said, it's a derogatory term for it.
Because he's
And so
mocking
I was like, did she just pronounce mundane wrong? Oh my God, this is
okay,
going
I
to be
got you,
a
I got you.
long fucking book
I-
if she just pronounced mundane wrong the first time she said it.
I didn't
And
even
so
think
I didn't realize that until
Wait,
I don't know
did you
who-
guys
I
all
think it's-
listen to the audiobook or both?
I
was gonna
listened-
say
I-
all.
Yeah, because the only way I can consume
Yeah.
fiction quickly is with an
Yeah.
So I listened
audiobook.
to it on
I'm a slow
audio.
reader.
But
With,
the first time I read physical,
Mae Whitman as the narrator.
I don't know.
The actress, Mae Whitman. She narrated the
So-
version I read.
I think so, maybe, but so I was thinking about rereading or listening to this series a while ago, and decided against it because they changed the narrator for like every book. They're not the same actor.
Yeah.
And that drove me absolutely insane. I was like, I can't deal with that if you're going to change it every
I saw
book.
on the library it said Mae Whitman, and I was like, wait, Mae Whitman, the actress. So I looked it up to see if it was her, and it was.
Mhm.
And it looked like they had a different version before, and then they got
I
her to do
listened to the old one.
book 1 to kind of have like a celebrity guest, but I don't know. Like, she did I think she did a
So
good job. I mean,
now that you're saying that, like I'm going to go look. So it says on book 6 that that Sophie Turner is the narrator. So I wonder if it's the Sophie
What?
Turner from like Game of Thrones.
oh my gosh, I'm kind of fangirling.
But that's one of my things. Like almost every book is a different narrator. They don't stick to the same narrator
it would
for more
drive
than
me
2
up a
books in a
wall.
row, and
But
that
is-
drives
is-
me insane.
Is Clary the main character through the whole
Yes.
series? Yeah, so
Yes,
then
and
it would
they
drive me
change
insane.
narrations.
Yeah.
It drives me insane. Yeah, no, they keep switching back and forth, or not back and forth. They don't switch back. They keep switching to a different narrator, and so that's why I never got into the books in audio because I was really wanting to re-listen to them because I liked the whole series, but after I saw it, they weren't going to stick to one person, or they weren't, and they didn't have any plans of redoing them to where it is just one person. Then I was I'm not about to get all of these on Audible, and
Oh my gosh, we got a
Not
bunch of
about to
comments.
invest.
maybe doing through the library, but even then that would drive me nuts.
Yeah,
She
I
was
hear you.
15, and her 16th birthday was
No,
in
Claire,
the middle
the
of
author.
the book. Oh, Claire.
author.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
Well, I
Sorry,
think it's
I
a
was
I
little
know
bit
Claire,
confusing.
Clary. I just got that.
Yeah.
It kind of bothered me the whole time. But I was also fine with Cirque du Freak with Darren Chan being the name of both the author and the character. But this is something different for me. I don't know. Maybe I just, whatever. Because I think she started this as a fan fiction, so I don't know when she compiled it out of a couple fan fictions.
I have the answer to that. As
Okay, please.
definitively as one can get. But all right. While I do that, somebody else look up Cassandra Clare's age when she wrote this.
Well,
I was
she
trying
born
to. That's the one I thought you had the answer to.
1973, so we could do
So-
some math. But I
Okay,
mean,
1973.
City of Bones was
2007.
yeah.
She's 49
So,
this
someone
year.
that maths.
How long ago was 2007?
Writers trying to do math.
49 minus 15. She was 34. I'm very good at math.
When the first book came out, but no
Yeah,
telling
when the
me
first
she
book
actually
came out, but
stood-
not when she wrote it. When the
So
first
that's kind of
All right. So here's the thing, right? Apparently, she wrote a lot of Harry Potter fan fiction. She had several different series and a lot of stories and stuff. One of which was called the Draco Trilogy. And from the Draco Trilogy, a lot of Jace's backstory matches
Yeah.
up with that. Like somebody said the Falcon scene specifically is
Oh,
from
mhm.
there. And there's like some quippy one-liners and some other
Yeah.
things specific to Jace that's from the Draco trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
But she had another series called The Mortal Instruments that was a Ron and Guinea fan fiction. And there's major plot points and such pulled from there. So what the best theory, well, at least what I think is the most accurate theory that I saw going around, was that when she decided to write The Mortal Instruments, she pulled from many of her
Those
fan
two.
fictions.
Yeah.
But didn't she get pretty roasted for this? Because like I know
So
Cassandra Clare
roasted.
has several plagiarism accusations, and then I saw an article that said she
From Star
plagiarized
Wars
her.
and Harry Potter.
Yeah, but I saw something
then
that said she
herself.
plagiarized herself. Yeah. And they said she took direct lines from the Draco trilogy. And the thing as well, because I saw that headline before I finished reading. And so I was like paying attention to Jace's dialogue. He has like all these quippy liners, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like it was pulled from a Draco fanfic. That sounds like it was pulled from a Draco fanfic with no context. It was just like, oh, yep, I can see that. I think because probably she came from a fanfic background is maybe why she had that tropey teenage voice so well. Like,
Yes.
Which,
think,
I mean,
yeah.
it kind of goes back to, we had this same conversation when it came to Throne of Glass, how that started as a fanfic and then it turned into what it is.
Yeah.
And so it kind of is the same thing here, where it started as a fanfic and turns into the book. And so it's a little, I feel like it's not as like fleshed out as like what it could have been if like it wasn't, I don't know.
That was one of the things that I was gonna bring up is so I think certain things in here were done very well. Like I think the teenagers felt, I will specify as 90s teenagers, because I know that like compared to teenagers of today, probably drastically different, but definitely felt like 90s teenagers. And a lot of that was well done. But then there were so many things where like something would happen or something would be explained, and I was like, oh my gosh, this in concept, this is a thing that Sam should be salivating over, but in execution, I feel like I'm 13 again on fanfiction. That's where the giddy energy comes from. I felt like a teenager reading my fanfiction again. So yeah, I definitely feel like what you're saying is there needed to be more work put in to make it not a fan fiction. And this is coming from somebody with a like I posted a lot of original work disguised as fan fiction on fanfiction.net to get feedback when I was like 12 and 13. So like I understand Cassandra. I understand.
Yeah, like she had the pillars of her fanfic that like I think was probably really inspirational towards her, and like she couldn't kill those darlings. Like,
grow a pair, murder them, cut them in half.
Just wanted to say hi to Ava and Caitlin, also lurking. What else? I felt like I was going to say something. We were on a roll.
So we're talking about the fan fiction,
the fan fiction, the teenage characters. Oh, about the relatability of the teenage characters. Again, I didn't realize this was published in 2007. For some reason, I was thinking it was a little bit older. So, like, actually, I totally could have read this as a teen. Like, I would have been in high school when it was published. So, I don't know why I missed out on it. And I think I would have probably loved this. If I would have read this around the time I had read Twilight, I probably would have devoured this. But since I think the first time I probably, like, because I said I DNF'd it twice, that was probably like 2014, 2015. Like, I was a bit older. I was not really vibing, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely, we're going to have a little guest because she's being rambunctious. No, I read it closer. So I can't tell you for sure when I read it. I knew I was not out of high school. So it was before 2013, but I'm not for sure. But because 2007, that was, I must have been like a freshman in high school or something like that when I read it. And so I was definitely, I liked it a lot, and I ended up like devouring the whole series, like all 6 books. And I really enjoyed it, but then I I got rid of the series I didn't have a library at the time in my own house, and so I got rid of them, and I still don't have a library in my own house, and so I don't have them anymore. And I was gonna, like I said, I was gonna do the audiobook, but I just couldn't get past the narrator.
Wait, I have a question. Now I remember what I was going to say. Onto the idea of like picking it up. So I had mentioned like I had DNF'd this book a couple times.
Mhm.
What did you guys think of like the opening chapter and like the introduction to this book? Because like I really thought about it this time just because it's like I DNF'd this twice. Like what about that opening was so just like off-putting to me? Like I don't know what about it was. So I wonder like how you guys felt about the beginning because I don't know why it just didn't grab me.
The beginning has a really high curve if you're not a prolific paranormal contemporary reader. Cause like I am, and I went into it and they're like, oh yeah, club or Pandemonium Club for all ages. I'm like, Vampire Club. And they like go in there
Mhm.
and there's that kid who's like with a vampire. He's like, oh, I'm a vampire hunter. And I'm like, oh, so cute. Don't trust that motherfucker. He's gonna eat you. And like, so like I was clocking all of
Mhm.
them. But it's like the vampire is getting lured away. I'm like, oh, don't trust her, boo. You about to get murderized. So like, but if you're it was so full of those like
Mhm.
paranormal tropes and everything. Like literally the vampire club is called Pandemonium, mindfuckery things. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
2090s or such a 2000
Mhm.
vampire fiction thing. So but if you're not already versed in like that kind of terminology, those kind of tropes and everything, then I feel it would have a very high curve for like
Yeah.
interest and stuff,
Mhm.
which is weird because after you get past that opening part, the rest of the novel is not
Yeah.
as
That's
thick
what
in
really
it.
threw me off because I was like, I don't know if that was the best way to open this story. Like I kept thinking about that. Like the further I got in, like I don't know if that should have been the opening scene. I mean,
Yeah.
it did give the paranormal vibes, and I know like that is something you hear, like like as writers we hear that a lot. Like your genre should be apparent from your beginning, even if
Mhm.
you're doing a portal fantasy. You should put like some sort of like hint or vibe about
I
you
feel
know
like
Yeah.
it was still mildly misleading because it was not like
Yeah.
that
Well, I was
like there's
thinking like
different flavors of that, and it felt like
Mhm.
it went from dark, edgy punk goth to like a slightly what a
Like literally the next scene is like
dark
her in a
academia.
coffee house with
Yeah.
in a poetry slam. It's like they're not the same.
Mhm.
Those two people
So
don't do
there's
those
Oh
some
my
people
gosh,
don't
I
do those
forgot
things.
about that. I forgot
Like
that
the
was a
person that
scene.
goes to the Pandemonium Club and is partying with all the goth people are not going to the coffee shop the next morning with her best friend and their nerdy band doing a poetry slam. They aren't the
I
same.
I don't
They kind of
necessarily agree
are.
with that, but that's because I would do those
Well,
two things
Yeah,
immediately
okay.
after,
but like I guess like in
but
that like it was unclear like
it's the
the
tonal difference for
yeah
the
it was like a
narrative
completely
because
different like
yeah.
feel and vibe and
There were
so
so
like
many times that happened that it
mhm.
would like try to have that dark, serious, like edgy tone, and then the next day you've got that like light, campy. So about the demons last night.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Well, and they kept like same thing like they kept like saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble with the conclave and this and that," and then you never even see
for
them.
win,
I
for
know
win.
they did that
When?
a
For
lot.
what? Like, what do you like? Yeah, we find out later like Hodge
You
just
under-
didn't tell them
You
anything. It's like
understand what
once again,
Jason's
why is he the
drinking.
only freaking adult in this damn place? Like, he's
Okay, what I didn't
untrustworthy. He's like,
understand about Hodge being there is like that was like his prison, right? He like was locked there
yeah,
for behaving badly.
But
It's like why do you want a guy who behaved badly to be teaching your kids?
and you just talked
yes,
to everybody who decided that was a good idea. The guy who joined the guy who stayed loyal in a circle that was
mm-hmm.
trying to just genocidally murder an entire universe
Like,
of people.
yeah,
He's the guy who will teach our kids.
of course.
That's it.
Well,
But I
and
love that
Lightwood
it's like
should
his
have known
punishment.
better.
Your punishment
Yeah.
is being a teacher because that's the worst. But also jokes on us because those are our kids.
Yeah. Well, look, the Lightwood should have known better because they knew him as like the loyal person to Valentine. So like they should have known that like he was still kind of that person. Like,
They should have been extra sus. They
Yeah.
should have been like, "You might be pissed we got out of it."
Like it would have made
you
sense
would
maybe if he
think.
was like an assistant or like a janitor or like I don't know, the gym teacher. I don't know, like version of the institute. You know what I mean? Like, but no,
Yeah.
no other
Well,
adults.
they had a school apparently. Like you find out later in the end, like not in the end, but like when you're learning more about Valentine and the circle, you find out like they do have like a school. So
In
like they
Egypt.
easily could have sent him somewhere like that where he was doing something, but instead they sent him
He
off
was
way,
also-
way away from they don't even care to watch about them
Oh,
to the same institute with people that you're also not
I just-
technically exiling,
thought-
but they're in trouble.
I just realized why. He's Snape. Because
Oh.
Snape was a Death Eater, and Dumbledore
Oh,
kept him
okay.
at Hogwarts. That's why.
Yeah,
Well,
but
in that
Cassandra
case, you would
Clare,
think
that
he would
doesn't
be-
work without the rest of the.
I know it didn't work in Harry Potter either. I still question.
Well, I was about to say,
it.
then you would think he
saying.
would be in Idris. You know, he would be right
No,
underneath
they
the
needed
nose,
him in
and
New
he would
York for
stay
the
in the
plot.
city. Exactly, but instead he's in New York
Yeah.
at some random institution, being the only adult watching all these damn rampant teenagers, and like they're just running around New York doing God knows what, and their parents have been in Idris for how long? It never was
Yeah,
said.
they didn't even call to check up on him.
No.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Hodge was
I
the
was
only
like-
one that was
would think-
communicating.
I
so
would
he still
definitely
Yeah.
communicating with
Hodge.
them.
It's like, Hodge, I know that we're ex-coworkers and everything, buddy, but I would like to talk to my children directly, please.
Yeah. Well, it also goes to show like the time, like the day and age back then. Like it's not
Mhm.
like nowadays how like the technology is so easy to where you could call, you know. So like
Well,
it
yeah,
makes me
but
wonder
they
like
had-
what like and then like did they like was it like
Yeah,
a
but you
landline? Did they have a
could have-
landline in their
No, but the
institution?
thing is,
Send a letter.
in 2007, you could have had a cell
Yeah.
phone, but again, Cassandra
didn't
Clare was
have cell phones.
34, so she
No,
was
you
maybe a
had cell
little bit
phones, but I
behind
don't
on
think
the
it's like
teen
I don't know if
culture.
they
No,
had like
Claire had a cell phone.
yeah, but they didn't.
Oh, they
She
had
was
the same
outside of the
thing.
she was outside of that
Yeah.
area, so it makes me wonder if like with Harry Potter, you know how like in her universe all
Oh,
the
well, no, they
wizards are
had
so
phones.
far back. Did
They
they
had
have
phones in
phones?
the institute because she used the phone in the institute to call Simon for a ride.
Oh, okay. You're
Yeah,
right.
so that's what
then
I'm
The
saying.
parents should have been calling. What the hell?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I was saying that like they should that even if they called Hodge and
Mhm.
Hodge was giving them the information, it's like, hey, I still want to talk to my kid directly. Have my kid call
Yeah.
me like on the
No.
landline.
No, they definitely should have been for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't even find out until like book 2 they have a freaking brother. It's like like
Wait, who is
the
they?
Lightwoods. Sorry, the
Oh.
Lightwoods. They
Yeah,
have a
they
little
do. They have
brother.
Max.
Oh, do they tell
Yeah,
you in
Max.
that?
Max is in Idris with his parents because he's
But
so
you just
little.
they just never know about them. They just don't talk about any of their
They
families.
tell you
It's all
once,
about
and
yeah,
then he
like,
doesn't
oh, we've got
matter.
parents, meh. Parents and a brother, meh.
I'm not even 100% certain if Alec or Isabel's the older. I think it's Alec. I think Alec is the
I
oldest,
hope it
but
was
I'm not
Alec
sure.
because
it's
didn't they kind
Alec.
of imply that there was like a flirtation with him and that wizard or that warlock guy?
Yeah,
And then I was
Magnus.
like, wait a
look,
minute,
I don't
isn't that
care
a
how
grown man?
old Alec is. Magnus is too old for him.
Yeah, I was like,
Magnus
how old is
enough
Magnus?
to
Because I was
be
imagining like a
grown
grown
up.
Magnus
man.
is an
And Alec is
Magnus is
young
an
enough.
immortal. Magnus
Okay,
is an immortal.
that's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's
definitely
what I'm like,
problematic
Michael
things
aged.
about that.
murderized. Yes, that's one of my favorite
Magnus
words.
is definitely immortal, and at this point in the story, he's
Mhm.
like 200, 300 years old. Like
See, that's
he's
that's
way old enough
definitely-
to know better. It's fucking weird.
Yes,
Because
it's like,
Clary is what,
sure.
15, 16?
She's 15 and turned
15,
16
she
in
turned
the book.
16.
Yeah, that's what I meant because
Yeah.
her birthday happens. So I was
Mhm.
thinking Alec could only be what, a handful of years older than Clary Maximum, right? Like,
No, he would have had to have been a full-grown adult wizard by the time she was birthed, because like he was the wizard of.
no, not
Manhattan?
not Magnus, Alec.
Oh, Alec, my bad.
He is.
I think Alec is still young enough that his crush on Jace isn't perceived as weird by the others.
No, that's normal because they're in the
Is
same
there
like,
a
age
Mortal
group.
Instruments wiki? I'm sure there is.
There is.
There
I couldn't find a
is.
definitive on the ages. They just kept giving me the ages for everybody in the TV show, which was not helpful because it says Clary is
No.
18 in the TV show.
Boo.
Yeah, they
most-
aged them up in the TV show to make it more appropriate.
Yeah, the most I could find was that Jace is 6 months older than Clary. Isabel is their age, and Alec is a year or two older. Was the best I could find when I was looking. And then
Yeah.
Magnus is old enough to know better. I was convinced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
was
He's
just
immortal.
really taken aback by the fact that there was like a hinted flirtation at them because I had imagined him grown.
Okay, there's definitely a flirt.
No better.
Yeah, and there's
Okay,
definitely
I didn't, like I said, I didn't prepare any banners because I just thought we can wing it because
That's fine.
there's a lot to say about this book.
So
Okay,
many
I'm going to
things.
be 100% honest. If it wasn't for the book club, I would have DNF'd.
I mean, that's fair. I do not blame you at
At
all.
what point were you like, damn,
We need to
I
know.
would end it right now? At
When
what
did
point
you-
were
Well,
you like,
I
this is too much?
posted, I made my own little meme in the Discord
Mhm.
when they first mentioned Idris. That got under my skin. And
Oh,
a little,
yeah.
a little bit after that, so probably it was around 15% the first time I really felt like a real good like.
Between
Okay.
France and Germany. Nothing's between France and Germany except Switzerland. Hello. Hi. Here.
I was real confused. That one really
Hello.
got me. But the thing is, they could have just easily phrased that in a way like, at the border of France and Germany. So like they didn't have to like phrase it that way. It was
Yeah,
like-
there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I was just like, the American school system fails
I-
again.
I think I
Clary?
just had like maybe an issue like again maybe it was like character motivation. Oh, first of all I found Clary very unlikable throughout. Like she never felt like okay like
I get you. I had such a hard I'm like, Clary, I want to like you. You're reacting in a way
Mhm.
like an MC for this situation that like normally it doesn't happen. Normally it's like, no, this isn't, right. And I just want to go home and stuff. But you're like, nah, demons, let's go. Let's fight. I want my
Mhm.
mom back, bitches. But also, Clary, could you stop making snide comments about every girl you see?
yes. Oh my
Yeah.
Could you
gosh.
stop getting so weirdly jealous of Simon, but also having no interest in him at all?
Exactly.
Could you-
She was
could
so
you, like-
territorial over Simon. Like, it's like, but yet she had no interest whatsoever, and then was completely oblivious when the man tells him, "Oh, and I did it because I love you," and she's like, "What?
What?
You love me like a
But, like,
a brother?"
There's not even that moment where she's like, yeah, I love you too, like her brother. She's just like, oh, what do you mean you care about me? And it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
even
really?
though she was kind of a jerk. Like
I wanted to like her
like
so much,
obliviously.
but,
Well, and you would think she would have keyed into it, like even at the beginning when they're in the coffee shop, the girl was like clearly like asking her, "Are y'all together? Like, does he
Yeah.
like y'all? Because he's like giving y'all googly eyes, acting like y'all are together or whatever." And so she had to confirm it before she decided she was going to move on Simon. Like,
yeah, which I felt was very nice of her. I liked that girl.
it was for sure, but like,
But, like,
if that wasn't the energy that was being
there's a-
given, then it wouldn't have had been to be confirmed.
There's a part at the end where Clary's like, she's like, maybe it wasn't, or when he tells her, he's like, look at me, really look at me. And then she's like, she admits to herself that she's always known that he's had a thing for her. She just didn't know how she was going to react if he ever confessed. And I'm like, oh, really? Because the narrative doesn't support this.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
So
The narrative really didn't support that at
the
all.
narrative says you a liar.
Well, she did compare herself like always with other women, and like the first thing time I noticed it was like with her mom, describing like how she looked in comparison to her mom, and she's like,
Mhm.
I'm just small and tiny. That's so unappealing. I was like, what universe are
Yeah,
you living
like-
in?
Short
Yeah.
girls are only cute. And I'm like, I think in my notes somewhere I wrote the words, I guess beautiful is a tall woman privilege.
Yeah, I just was like, that's a weird
That's why
take.
That'll
Yeah.
be pretty if you're short.
Yeah, she just had several, I don't know, kind of like problematic one-liners that I was kind of like the way that Jace has a lot of kind of like smooth talker one-liners, but none of them are really like
Mhm.
that bad. They're just kind of
Yeah,
like
she definitely made
bravado.
some statements.
She had several statements, two that I myself will not even repeat out loud. Like,
Do it.
I'm like,
I want to know.
I
Write them to me.
things
I'll
that
say
I
them.
that I
As long
Do
kind
it
as
in
of
a private chat. I want to know.
there was just a couple things she said. Like, okay, 2007 dark humor on point, but also your character's real unlikable. Oh, but
Yeah.
okay, what did I I wrote this wasn't Clary saying this was just the narrative saying it about the vampires. It said she comment or like it wasn't really her thoughts because it was in third person. I could just, like the narration, but it belonged to her. You know what I mean?
Narrative thoughts. It's
Yeah, yeah. So it was saying like noticing that all the vampires when they were like getting the swarm of vampires coming, oh, they're all good looking. Do only good people get turned into vampires, or do ugly people just not want to live forever or be immortal? I was like,
do they not make ugly people into
ugly
vampires? Maybe
Yeah.
ugly people don't want to live that long. And I was like,
it's like,
Yeah.
existence is pain when you're
Wow.
ugly, y'all.
no.
I was like, what?
What the heck, man? That's so
The-
bad.
It was- that one I stopped reading and like got up and like did one of
Did she
those.
really just say that?
Clary made some statements. There were some
Yeah.
questionable things being thrown around.
But I did like Jace one time literally said, "I'm not like other boys," and I was like, "Oh my
Oh my
gosh!"
god, I rolled
Oh
my
my
eyes. I was like,
gosh.
did he really just say that?
And I was like,
He's
"At
the
least he's
line.
self-aware." Like,
Well, and Clary definitely tries to play up the whole "I don't know, I'm pretty" trope, and I hate
oh
that trope.
yeah,
Mhm.
It's like pretty girls know they're freaking pretty. Like, stop. Like, stop.
Mhm.
annoying.
Like, if you really want to do that, then write an average woman, write an average looking girl, and then to be sure, then she can be like, I don't know, I'm pretty. I don't believe all the guys when I'm pretty. Yeah, because maybe she's average. And she doesn't get turned by every dude because some guys have called her ugly a few times. But them pretty girls don't get called ugly. And they know they're pretty.
They do know they're
So-
pretty.
They know they're pretty.
Like Jace. Jace knows he's pretty.
Exactly. So
does.
just
Does
own
this
it.
several times. See, I feel like when Jace said I'm not like other boys, he's being like a smart ass asshole.
Yeah, that's what I
And
mean.
like
It felt
then
really
the narrative keeps saying he's not like other boys or
Yeah,
pointing
so
out
it,
ways
was,
he's
it,
not.
it
And I'm
felt
like,
like it felt so like on the nose, like meta, like I don't know, like I was kind of here for it just because it kind of felt campy to me.
you said you're ugly.
So it just popped in my head. Can we talk? Oh my god, Michael, no. Can we talk about how their first kiss was like not even supposed to happen? And it just was like he didn't try to kiss her. She turned around and they bumped faces.
Oh, the thing is,
And then he was
okay,
like, okay, I'll go ahead and go for it.
yeah, I had totally been like spoiled on the book that I kind of knew they were like this on again, off again thing. They were kind of not siblings. Are they related? Are they not? So I was spoiled about this dynamic between Clary and
Mhm.
Jace. So I was kind of like, looking out for this while I was reading. And okay, they did do a lot of like winks about like family and siblings and like she had foreshadowing there, but I didn't like maybe teen Violet would have, but like if in my 30s Violet did not pick like a romantic thread really between them.
Mm-mm.
Like
okay,
I didn't
so
feel the tension. It felt out left field for me.
our romance expert who's read over 300 romance novels, I mean just contemporary romance and other things, let me tell you, there wasn't any fucking chemistry between her and Simon at all. First of all,
Oh,
they kept
no.
trying to tell me there's chemistry, and then like her and Jace, I'm like, no, you want me to believe there's chemistry? Have at least one scene not be hostile on one end when they're, because all of Jace's flirting was to annoy the fuck out of her. The only
Yeah.
time she was admiring him, he wasn't even really talking to her. He was doing other things. She was admiring him more when Alec was flirting with him. And I'm like, girl, that's not healthy. You need to not. And then,
let's not even get started about
and then
how
out of
Clary talked about
nowhere,
Alec. Oh my god.
and then
Oh
out of
my
nowhere,
gosh.
he's just like, let me take you on this very romantic thing in the garden. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you this. This scene, romantic as fuck. This kiss scene, awkward, but teenage as fuck.
Okay.
But
like
came
as you
out
guys
of nowhere.
were reading it,
out of nowhere.
didn't this feel
Mhm.
like as a writer reading this like romantic date scene, it felt so much like I have this scene in my head, and it's like she held on to it even though by the time she got there it didn't fit.
It was
It's like
so unearned. And then
it just
and
felt like she
then-
had that scene like ready, or like I don't
it's
know.
like, let's go back.
I just had an
to-
idea.
Back to the room. And it's like, okay. And I'm
Oh my
like,
God.
girl, Simon is asleep on your bed. This is not gonna end
Mhm.
well.
No.
And then like they go there and Simon opens the door and he's like, the
It was
fuck is
so
going
bad.
on?
And
I'm
then
like,
Jason's like, if you're gonna have another man in your bed, you shouldn't have invited me back. It's like,
Jace, I didn't say we was gonna bump uglies just because we making out at the
Mhm.
door.
I thought Jace handled that really well. I thought Jace was
Jace-
funny. The
I-
thing is,
I
like,
feel-
he had
look,
some good character moments.
I
Well,
feel
Maybe
like
I just
Jason
liked him in
Simon-
comparison to Clary.
Look,
yeah, he
Jace
actually
and
had some good
Simon
personality.
were very justified in that
Yeah.
moment. So both of their reactions were as good as they could have been. I especially
And
like when
Clary
she
just
goes
didn't
back in.
understand whatsoever, like why he was
Clary,
pissed. She
just
was
the
like,
cardboard
"What?
cutout of a
What
character. Like, what?
And then-
happened?"
And she's like, oh, she was frustratingly. She's so assertive in so many times, and she showed her boundaries. That's one thing I will give her. She sets very nice boundaries and is very
Mhm.
assertive about things. Except in that moment, she's like, Jace, it's not what it looks like. Simon, it's not what it looks like. Simon's like, I don't understand how you making out with him could be anything other than you making out with him, Clary. Please. No. And then like she goes in and he's like, I'm sorry I stormed off into your room. I didn't have anywhere else to storm off to. And I'm like, can you imagine him going in there, shutting the door, and then going, fuck, this is well.
Oh, damn
gotta-
it.
I gotta pack
Now
up
I'm
and
gonna have to
leave
talk to her
now."
again.
Hashtag awkward.
Right? And then that whole conversation after, oh my gosh, poor Simon. Like, I just felt for him so bad.
I
It's like
think-
he was.
A lot of Simon's conversations gave me mixed feelings because on the one hand I was like, this poor sop. On the other hand, I'm like, boo, you're being a dickwad too, because like
Yeah.
he's flirting, he's dating around, and then he's all like, oh, those girls were just distractions, just practice and I'm like,
Oh yeah. No,
sure.
I didn't like Simon. Well, like
I loved
Yeah, no, I
you
don't like
until
Simon at all.
this moment.
see,
And then
like
he's
in
I
general.
went out with Isabella to make you jealous. And I'm
Yes.
like,
Oh my gosh.
how
That
dare
was
you do my
awful.
girl like that?
In general, I really am not a fan of like friends to lovers as a trope, so I immediately like wrote Simon off. Like I don't know, like I feel like in real life, friends to lovers, like yeah, that works, but like in books, like I don't want to hear it. Like if you have an established
Mm-mm.
relationship with this character, when I start the book, I don't care about you.
Like that's your best friend, and he's gonna stay your best friend.
Yeah.
Like, that's the box he's been put in when he
yeah,
started this.
unless it's like it can be done, but like for me, it's the exception, not the
I would
rule
like-
of me liking that
I
trope.
would like this platonic security blanket to remain. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So-
It's always just done in that
Yeah.
weird way where like us, the reader, could feel the tension, like that Simon was into her and she was oblivious,
Yeah.
and then it just was like an eye roll worthy.
Mhm.
Mm.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I do have actual banners. Oh wait, I wanted to reuse one banner because look, from Graveyard Book. Come on, perfect reusable banner. Because I didn't know there was going to be werewolves in this. Vampires, I could have guessed. Werewolves, I didn't know.
The lore gave me such
Sorry.
mixed feelings. I know. I understand your woes. I feel them too. The lore was just gave me such mixed feelings because it was like when looking
I'll be
at
right back.
looking at isolated things like the werewolves. I liked the werewolves. I liked how the werewolves were done. demons being defined as like just these otherworldly things, and therefore everything they touch is just these otherworldly things. Therefore, vampires and werewolves are just a demonic infection felt weird, but
Yeah.
sure. But then they're like, yeah, everything, all the myths everywhere entirely are like demons, except I think the Fae folk. I forgot to double
Didn't
check.
they say
those.
one thing wasn't real? Or did I just dream that? Ugh. Yeah, it was a lot because it was kind of, yeah. What's the trope called? Like all the stories are true or all the myths are true.
Yeah.
It definitely had that, like, I don't know. The vampires and the warlock, right? That was it.
Yeah, warlocks are the offspring of humans and demons.
Yeah, because they had that the distinction between the warlocks, the actual like magic users versus like the witches that were just like
No, warlocks and witches are the same thing.
yeah, but didn't they say this thing about like witches like oh that's not a real magic user?
Magnus made a comment, I think, or someone
Yes,
called him
that's
a wizard,
yeah.
and he was like, "I'm not a wizard, I'm a warlock,"
Yeah, yeah.
or
And it's like, oh,
something
those are
like
just
that.
pretending. Like those are just the humans who pretend they can do magic. And I was like, oh, okay. But I don't know.
I don't remember.
Oh,
I
so
think I
I think
remember
the
something
Fae-
like that, but he was it's about magic, and she's like, "We don't do magic."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they it for
It's
me it was almost
I
like
think it's she kept saying that shadow hunters do magic, and
yes, she
Jace was
did.
very
Yeah.
adamant that shadow hunters don't do magic, that they just utilize magic items and they have to have
Mhm.
rigorous training and the runes
Mhm.
on them in order to do it, and because magic is specifically demonic in origin, and there's like no other version of magic in this world. It's all demonic in origin.
Mhm.
So if you can do the magic users are predominantly warlocks and witches, which are the offspring of demons and humans, normally mundanes, and they're infertile, so they can't have their own
Oh
kids.
yeah, that's what they said. Yeah. Now I remember
Right,
that.
and it is it is the Fae I was thinking of. They don't actually like know where the Fae folk come from, but there's legends that they're actual Nephilims, children of angels and demons.
Well, I think like the thing for me with like monster archetypes, it's because kind of like they really threw like all monsters and the kitchen sink out, that it
Yes,
got a little bit
made up a few.
confusing. But it was because kind of I'm like, oh, how do these vampires work? Okay, we don't have time for that. Like, how do these werewolves work? We have a
It's
little bit of time for that. Like, how does this work? It was like,
it's
was this
because
this? Was that?
they tried to make it too simple but complex at the same time.
Yeah.
She wanted to build her own world and her own system and stuff, which is why she did the demons and the warlocks and the witches, but then wanted to fall back on well-known archetypes so that she could
Mhm.
shorthand things. So it's like, oh, vampires, you know what vampires are going to do. They're going to eat people's blood and maybe kill them. You know, werewolves, oh, well, they're going to shift. It's werewolf packs? Yeah,
Yeah.
all right, they're there.
Yeah, she
So
even said
it's like,
like all the legends you heard are true, you know.
Yeah, I said
Except
that
for
while you stepped
zombies.
away, Casey. Oh, that was
Oh,
it. I was
nice.
going to say there was one thing that wasn't included. I
Yeah,
couldn't remember
except
what
for
it was.
zombies.
You know, that scene when they're at the restaurant, like looking at the menu, and they're kind of like going over the different who eats what. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny that like they have like a restaurant for all the downworlders and they have their own menus and they can go through and get whatever at this old restaurant. It's all like a
Actually,
little
I
thing. I thought
liked
was
that
cool.
scene.
Me too.
You know, for me, that kind of like
I had mixed feelings with that scene because I enjoyed it a lot, but then also the prejudice undertones, and it felt like there was a
Mhm.
serious
yeah,
conversation
that's true.
trying to be had,
That's
but they
true. Yeah.
didn't actually go there because she's like, oh, so the underworlders are good enough for you to like, you know, eat their cooking or to serve you or to talk to and to flirt with and stuff,
Mhm.
but not good enough to like marry or anything. And I was like, this just, as a woman in an interracial relationship, just got too real for me. I was
Yeah.
not forewarned.
Well, and then for
Yeah.
her to turn around and when she's talking to Luke and he's trying to explain his
Mhm.
side and she's like, "You're just another downworlder," and he was like, "You sound just like them."
The hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I didn't like how casual that conversation was. Like, just in a restaurant, like,
it
and no one, and
continues.
it not actually being
Yeah,
talked
well,
about.
The entire
Cassandra
book is
Clare
kind
needed
of
to
like that.
introduce this
Yeah.
theme right into the book, so that was like,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of introduced before then, but I feel like she
Yeah.
was trying to have a deep conversation about a very important theme. But like with a lot of
Mhm.
the things in the book, it's good in concept. Execution's kind of dicey.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Especially when like she gets mad at somebody for following Valentine. It might have been Luke for following Valentine, and she straight up uses the phrase white supremacist when she's talking about Valentine. It was
I
Luke, because then Luke is like, well, when you came in here, you threw out the term underworlders, and she's like, that's not the same. And
It's
I
not
was
the
like, and
same.
how isn't it?
yeah.
So
Well, what I
Because it
didn't
came from her
understand,
mouth. Of course it wasn't the same.
yeah,
it
what
is
I
that
didn't
way.
understand about Clary and Valentine was like we learned like right away, like in was it like the first or second chapter, like her say like, oh, my dad's not, my dad died, he's not part of the picture. My mom didn't tell me anything about it. So it's like, okay, as like a reader, okay, we know that this is going to be something.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, my mom was married to Valentine. It's like, why at that moment did Clary, like in her internal thoughts, never be like, oh, I guess that could be a possibility that that's my
She was
dad.
given a story about her dad and initials. She said that they told her
Yeah,
that
but
her
like the
father's
fact
name
that
was
she didn't
Jonathan.
even think of it, that it could have been a possibility. That's the thing. Like, oh, my mom had kind of a weird story about my dad and was really secretive about it. And she had this husband that I didn't know about. Like, I don't know. To me, it just felt like, girl, why wouldn't you at least like think of the possibility or like, I don't know. To me, it just seemed
Because
like,
as far as Claire knew, she had two dads. She had JC,
yeah,
who
yeah.
every time I saw JC, I was like,
I
Jesus
knew it was
Christ.
Jace.
So she thought she had JC, and her mom mourned that like genuinely grieved that box. So
Mhm.
why wouldn't she think that's her dad who died? Right? Like why would
I don't know. I
why would
wasn't
she doubt
buying it
that
right
for a moment?
away.
And then Luke, the man who raised her. So that's just like one of those things. And it's like, oh well, your mom was married to Valentine, and she's like, oh well, my mom had questionable taste in men before she met my father.
I don't know. Like, if I had found out like a big thing like that from like my parents' past, like, I mean, I found a couple things out about my parents' past when I grew up, and I was like, what? And they weren't that scandalous. Like, so it's like,
Mhm.
what? My mom had been
It just
married to like the big baddie of the world? What the hell? Like, I
It
think
just
I would.
all
I don't know.
depends on like what parts of your reality you want to hold on to,
Yeah.
especially as a teenager. And as a teenager who's like, your mom's missing. Do you really want to try to do the other math that may traumatize you before she's there to actually answer questions?
Mhm.
I don't know.
So
31-year-old
Luke?
Violet reading this wasn't buying it.
Yeah. Remind me. So when they
Mhm.
find when Luke addressed like Valentine's your father and the man in the
Luke
picture
never
was just
says
a
it.
commission or whatever. Oh, it wasn't Luke. I thought she was talking to Luke and his.
Well, okay. I don't think Luke ever actually says Valentine's your father. What he does is he tells her the story, and he
Yeah,
tells
she was
her,
expecting another
he's like,
baby.
and your mom was already pregnant, or your mom knew she was pregnant when she left. And because up to this point, nobody had known that her mom was pregnant when she left. They were just like, your mom
Hey!
left, and so must have had you with a mundane. That's what that's what Hodge told her. That's what several other people told her. And then Luke was the first one to be like, no, your mom was pregnant before she left. She knew he's like, you're the reason that she left, to protect you. And Clary was like, oh, okay. And then Clary says, and Valentine, and she stops. And Luke's waiting for her to like process it. And she's like, Valentine's my father. And it like clicks for her, and he just like lets her. And then she's like, well, why did my mom lie? And she starts asking other very specific questions about the man in the photo and his name. And he's like, well, no, that guy existed. He did die that way. Your mom just didn't know who the fuck he was. His parents commissioned a portrait. So
I guess I never understood, like, she knew, because didn't she know, like, the name, like, the JC was, like, Jonathan Christopher?
no,
Didn't
I don't
she
think she
know
knew what
that
it stood
was?
for.
Well, she knew Jonathan, like right away in the beginning. Like they said something Jonathan. Like,
Yeah. So
Because to
in the
me, like,
very
if she knew it was
beginning-
Jonathan Christopher, the whole Jonathan Christopher and then Jace, like, being like, that's his nickname, like, that's so obvious to me.
So I didn't
And
know that
so-
Jace was a nickname for John. I genuinely didn't. I just thought they had
Really?
the same. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I knew that.
I didn't.
So that made it
knew-
obvious to me, but no.
I
So,
could
but,
see,
yeah.
like, looking at that, I was like, if you know that Jace is a nickname for Jonathan, that makes it obvious. But
Yeah.
that's
But if
like
you did it, then yeah.
one of my children's middle names is Rocky. And somebody asked me, they're like, oh, so short for Robert. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? No. Like, his name's just Rocky. That was the day I learned Rocky's a nickname for Robert. So yeah, no, there's just...
See, and I wasn't thinking as like Jace was short for Jonathan. I took it as Jace was his initials.
Oh,
with just some
JC,
vowels
Jace,
added
I
to
could see
it.
that.
That's what
I
I
get it,
always
yeah.
took it as. But I didn't take it as like because it was Jonathan Christopher necessarily. I like JC is Jace. Like that's so easy.
Yeah, I could see that too.
I did see online when I was just doing a little bit of like research about like thoughts about the book and like what the reputation had been, that a lot of people said it was really predictable, the plot.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel to readers and stuff. I'm just also saying that as a 15-year-old girl going through some like traumatic shit, I could see why she wasn't piecing everything together.
When I first read this book, I didn't kick it together. I mean,
Well,
now
see,
I
yeah.
did because I knew, but like when I first read it, like I didn't figure it out that they were siblings until it was told, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. Well, I saw some foreshadowing for that, but again, I also kind of heard rumors that this was like an incest thing going on in
Yeah.
this book, or
I think-
aren't they?
I think
You
if I
know.
had gone into it knowing nothing, I would have just been exactly like my mom. I would have been like, well, there are some things that don't add up for them being biological siblings, but I could see that Valentine raised Jace, and therefore Jace is his son. So, because like they're less than 6 months apart. It's not how babies work. you don't pop them out that fast. So, and like also, her brother was a toddler when she was born. So,
Well, you know what I have to say? I'm really glad. Like, I looked up some stuff about City of Bones and Cassandra Clare and like some articles and things like I said while I was reading before I finished. But it wasn't until like 20 minutes before the live show that I actually pulled up the Wikipedia, and it has a character list and it says like, Jace, Jonathan, Christopher together. And I was like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't pull up the Wikipedia to look that stuff up because it would have.
Yeah, it's so
glad I
a
didn't
big
spoil that
spoiler.
for myself.
Yeah. Because I did that before with, I don't know what series, pulled up the Wikipedia and it had like a big spoiler. I was like, dang it, I thought if I just stayed at the first paragraph, I'd be fine. Nope.
See, so I feel like out of any of the children, Jace is probably the most Valentine's child, just not biologically his. So
The thing is, I think, like I said,
Well,
I
because
think
he was
Jace
raised by him.
Yeah,
was
that's what I'm
probably
saying.
my favorite character just because he had the most personality and like a consistent personality up until like the Valentine thing, and then it was kind of like it felt like he had a personality transplant, but okay, his dad, who he thought was dead, had been around and was
He
had like
regressed to
yeah. So
oh my god,
it was actually
that was painful.
so it seemed like,
But I mean,
Chase,
but
why
when
are
you
being
when
an
you think
asshole, but it
about-
made sense in the circumstances. Kind of, so.
When you think about a child that's been manipulated by a parent as much as Jace had, it's completely understandable how he reacted to his father. He completely reverted back to the Jace he was when his father killed his falcon. He
Yeah.
over the Shadowhunter Jace that got. That's something that like it bothered the crap out of me seeing like his character like revert back like that. But at the same time, like it was relatable as far as like when you think about the manipulation that he had to go through.
Yeah, I 100% agree. At first, I was like, "What's going on? Why? What? This
That
is
was one of
consistent with
those-
Jace." And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, okay, it makes sense with the circumstance."
That was one of those times that I feel like she did something really well. And it's like when Valentine picks Jace up and he like carries him out, all like carrying and shit. I was like, oh man, Jace about to be brainwashed. Jace about to be recruited by his abusive daddy. No, Jace.
Yeah.
I also Valentine is such a great bad guy. I think he's
Valentine's a bad guy.
delightfully evil. Like the way he manipulates Jason Clary, and like especially since I don't think he actually thinks Clary's his. I think he thinks Clary's Luke's. Just the way that like she described how he looked at her, and the way that he got angry when he saw how she reacted to Papa Luke. I think he thinks she's Luke's, and he's just saying she's his to fuck with her and Jace.
So and you have to make you wonder like how much he actually believes that Luke is the reason that Jocelyn isn't still by his side. You know, he probably genuinely believes that it was probably Luke that turned Jocelyn against him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he told Luke as much. He said, is like, you turned her against her, you took her from me. And like,
yep.
And I'm like, oh.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if he really does think that like they cheated and she got pregnant with his baby.
Well, even if it's not a cheating thing, because like Clary's literally the exact age. Like she and Luke could have just left and immediately had Clary, and it still would have made sense timeline wise. So, like, I wonder if he just isn't sure because Clary does look so much like her mom and not so much like her dad. So,
but it could also just be that he has that distance, you know, like if he doesn't, you know, maybe subconsciously doesn't want her to be his, that I don't know.
With as possessive as he seems to be, I feel like if he saw her and was immediately like, oh, this is my daughter and this is my daughter with Jocelyn, then maybe. Because like he's got Jocelyn chained up downstairs.
Oh yeah, speaking of Jocelyn though, like how many times it was like, I feel like they did like this maybe once or twice where they were like, Jocelyn, oh that Jocelyn, like it's a super uncommon name. I was like, what? Like what?
Even change her initials. They were so JF. I'm like, there's a lot of that going along in this book.
Yeah, that was like
Luke's name, Lucian Gray something to Luke Gray something. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's a popular YA trope, though, the sort of like twists on names and name reveals. I think Cassandra Clare really, especially since this was 2007, I thought this was later. She like hit a lot of the YA tropes. You know, incest didn't take off in the category, thank goodness. But a lot of the other ones seem to be like standard. You know, in a lot of the YA that.
Well, I don't know the incest thing with
I was gonna say at least in Hodges' defense, he probably knew it was the same Jaws. He was just pretending to be stupid.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I was gonna say I saw the incest thing in one other book, and what was it? Fallen Kingdoms, that series, the Fallen Kingdom series. It's a YA series, and there's a instance of potential incest in there.
I saw somewhere that somebody theorized that Cassandra was going to have them actually be brother and sister, but like the audience didn't react well to it, so she
because wasn't the fanfic that she had with Ron and Ginny actual incest, right?
Well, but that's the thing. The Ron and Ginny fic was incest, but the Draco Ginny fic was not incest, and Jace is based on Draco, not Ron.
Yeah, so I can see why it rubs people the wrong way. Like Cassandra Clare, why you have a weird thing with.
Yeah, I can also see why people would suspect that maybe she changed it, but also the math still doesn't math with Jace's age.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It is weird though after they find out they're siblings, how the epilogue ended with them like
I'm like, y'all,
Going off on the-
this is not the
Like
familial
riding off into
vibe
the
you're trying to
sunset.
show me.
It's like,
And she had her arms around him on the motorcycle. I was like, this is uncomfy.
Luke-
This is
Luke
real
is-
uncomfy.
Luke
she
is looking
held
at
on
me
to
like,
his belt
your
loop.
brother needs you. No, her brother does not need her, Luke.
No.
So,
It was so.
I heard that vibe continues like for a while in
It
the series
does.
before.
Until like book like.
I
4.
appreciate that Clary was like, man, Jace is hot. No, I can't think that anymore. That is my brother. I'm like, girl, I understand I'll give you props for trying to not. But then
Yeah,
then
but
they get all
until
silly,
they
and I'm like,
Yeah, there's no, without spoiling much, there's a scene where they do kiss.
is there
And at the time, they both still think they are siblings.
so
But the
here's my
attraction
other
is too
problem.
strong.
Okay, but I don't get like why do people stand this?
after they think they're
Yeah.
siblings?
Yes.
That's the weird part. Because like I said earlier, there's no true chemistry or anything
Yes.
leading up to the first makeout. But then they find out they're siblings and they're all nice and soft with each other. And I'm like, why?
It's like now all of a sudden you have chemistry.
Why? Yeah, exactly. It's like all of a sudden I can believe that you two like each other because you think your brother is. This is not right. Something is wrong
She's
here.
like, I can't believe I'm in love with my brother.
Sorry. This is so funny.
It
No, but
is
I don't get why
gross.
people stand the series so much. Like I've seen so many like I don't know like photos on Instagram or like TikToks of people like trying to hold all the books because like when you put all
because
of the
she's had so
shadow
many.
hunters, like you can't even
I mean-
hold all the hardcovers at one time. Like it's like literally like I can't even show in frame like how tall the stacks are.
I mean, so I really liked her prequel I liked her prequel more than I liked this one. I have not read the
Was this her first series? Or did
additional
she have other?
one. This was her first one.
Are all
think.
of her things they're all shadow hunters
They're
is
all-
like the big extended universe, right? Okay.
Yeah, they're all
And they all exist in the
related.
universe. So she doesn't write
Yeah.
anything outside of shadow hunters.
I don't know. I haven't looked at her Goodreads.
Hold on, I got her
see.
Wikipedia in a different tab. Mortal Instruments, Mortal Instruments, Mortal Instruments.
All right, well, maybe it gets better as it goes on, because like for the most part, like I said, for book one, from what I read, a lot of the concepts and everything I thought were interesting and stuff. There was, of course, other things that are highly questionable, but also date the book definitely. And then it's just dicey execution on a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's got so much teen drama and angst. I could see why people would stand it, because like people love them some drama and angst.
So looking at her Goodreads, I'm pretty sure writes nothing but Shadow and Bone stuff. Not Shadow and Bone. Shadow Hunter stuff. Oh wait, there's one series from way back. It's got 2 books in it. This is maybe her new one. It's got It's called Sword Catcher. It's the first book in a high fantasy series. It's going to
Yep,
be
I
put
see
out
that
in
one.
2023.
Break.
Yeah,
it
it
up.
says
Looks
the
like
next
she's
in this-
about.
Yeah.
She's breaking.
So yeah, it looks like she's about to be venturing out to something else.
Yeah, but she has
But-
to be like if we're talking like YA authors, like numbers wise, one of the most prolific, right? Like
Oh, I'm sure.
because also this had both a movie and a TV version adaptation of.
Mhm.
Like who gets that? You know, and people still to this day, like she still has stuff coming out in this universe, right? Of the
Yeah, so
Chain of
she
Gold,
just
Chain
put
of Iron
out-
thing, those ones.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dark
Are still
Artifacts.
coming
She's
out
still
new.
working on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, she still has stuff coming out in this universe. Like it's still relevant today.
I could see.
Yeah, like
She
so
left
it's
herself
like
a lot of room. Her universe is also
Yeah,
very
because she left everything so broad.
Mhm.
Like
It's true.
she was like
Broad
anything
to
can
me.
happen except for zombies.
except
That's
no
the only
zombies.
thing that's not no zombies.
No zombies,
Their
but all
universe
magical
is
creatures.
also very OCable, which my husband and I had a conversation about how we think that like one thing in the formula to success is to have an OCable universe, which for non-weebs basically means you can very easily create your own like original character and just plop it in, which is like a huge thing that, you know, weebs, nerds, teens do and stuff. They just make a character, you know, like make your own X-Men and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So, like you could easily make your own Dark Hunter, make your own Warlock, and plop it into the universe for all your fan fiction needs.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was funny that I just popped in my head, you mentioned the make your own warlock, and it made me think about it. When they went to the City of Bones and actually went and talked to the brothers or whatever, they was it the blind brother? Silent brothers. Talked to the silent brothers. I was like, was that blind? The silent brothers, and that she reveals, okay, it's Magnus Bane, whatever. So if this man, or he's probably non-binary if we're being honest, if this person is the High Warlock of Brooklyn, how in the hell did they not know who he was? Just by his name? They were like, who's Magnus Bane? It's like, the High Warlock of Brooklyn! What do you mean, who's Magnus Bane? You're supposed to know these things. You're supposed to be keeping track of these people. You're the Institute, right? Like
that just see to me. So I don't feel like the Silent Brothers didn't know who Magnus Bane was.
Oh no,
I
I'm
just
talking about
felt
like I'm talking about the not the Silent Brothers. I'm talking about the Shadowhunters should have known who he was. They were like, I don't know.
Like Hodge definitely should have known.
Yeah, they're like guessing who's Magnus Bane. Like they should have been like, oh, this is exactly who he is right off the bat.
Especially when he talks like he's had dealings with the Conclave, not necessarily willing dealings, but he's had dealings with the Conclave. So it's like he should be on file. Like Hodge knew how to call him up. He just like that's the other thing. Hodge knew how to call him up. He did that little thing through the paper in the fire. There were green flames.
Oh yeah, he knew how to get him for Alec. Yeah, so conveniently knew who he was then. But mind you, he was probably I was about to say he was probably acting like he didn't know, but why would he? He didn't have motive to do that because he wanted to find the cup for Valentine. So he would want them to find Magnus.
There was
I have a question though.
Memories from her at that point.
Now that we brought it up, I totally forgot. Like they were like for this, you know, to be called the City of Bones. Like it was seemed like a real kind of small part of the story, like page count wise. Like
they literally go there like 1, 2 like chapters, and then that's it.
Well, I was surprised when they were there, like, oh, we're City of Bones. And I was like, oh, okay. And then they were getting the information, and all they got was like, oh, Magnus. I was like, I was expecting more than that.
Yeah,
like,
City of Bones is literally just a graveyard where they bury Shadowhunters.
And I thought they were gonna get more from them. Like it felt like this build up, and then it was like, oh, there's just this name. The memories will come eventually. I was like, okay.
The most I got out of that part was I have a note that's all like, you know, I guess if burning my bones in my body and then turning me into a gate helps keep all of my kids safe, I'm not using it anymore after I died. Go for it. And then I moved on. I don't think I have anything else for notes in that section. So that's what it is. You like walk in there, and that's like your parents who died in battle. They're that wall. And so it's like. I was like, this little twisted, or you know what? It's fine.
There's a funny line that I wish that was in the movie that I wish came from the book because it made me laugh. And it's when they go into there and they're walking through, and Jace is telling her, this is what this is where we get buried, blah, blah, blah. And when they're walking through, they have like skulls on each tomb to like signal this is where the tomb was. And so he like points at one and touches it and he goes, one day this will be me. And then they keep walking. I'm like, damn it, I wanted that in the book.
That's so good. So very
he goes like, one day this will be me. And he like pops it on the head. I'm like, I wanted that. And it wasn't in the book. I was so disappointed.
That has to be like a thing that the actor like ad-libbed.
Really cute.
So perfect.
Yeah, because it was so cute. That's what I will say. They did a good job. Like, I liked the casting of the movie. Like, the movie wasn't like my favorite. Like, they definitely could have done more with it. I really wish they would have. If they started it with one, keep going. There's 6 more
I
or 5 more.
appreciate
But
that at the end of the movie, they were like, "Why did you lie to them? They're not really brother and sister." I was like, "Thank you for easing the audience's feelings."
Yeah.
Well, they probably had to because, like,
Yeah, because
yeah,
movie audience.
Yeah, he was
very
in the movie. He was like, I don't believe it. Whatever.
I don't know. I felt like there was times, like I said, I thought about DNFing like several times, but I pushed through because it was the book club. But then there was parts where I did feel like I was starting to get into it. I was like, okay, I'm starting to get into it. I'm starting to get into it, but I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
Trust
another
me,
thing
there
that
were
just
so
popped in
many
my
times
head.
I was like, "Oh, sorry, you go ahead, Casey."
I was about to say there's one thing that just popped in my head. So they kept going back to the apartment to go do whatever, but they just left the whatever was up there, just left it there when they were done. They were like, okay, there's an
Forsaken.
evildoer, a Forsaken, just up there. We're just gonna shut the door. We're just gonna multiple times. We're just gonna ignore the apartment upstairs. We're gonna deal with Madame
Multiple
Dorothea
Forsaken,
downstairs,
too.
and we're just gonna ignore the noises coming from the upstairs floor. Like, we're just not. Nope. Like, they didn't even, like, that's your job. You're like,
What
that
can
is
we
your
do?
job.
We can't do anything. We're grounded. It's like, go,
I'm like, what do you mean?
even if you get them one at a time, just pick them off.
Like, they just left them there. It's like that wasn't a concern to them. They weren't concerned
Oh, yeah.
about anybody's well-being whatsoever. At this time, they didn't know that Dorothea was who she was. They didn't know, and they just didn't care. And there's like that.
Guest comes and drops off a package, gets murdered by a
The
Forsaken.
mailman, like,
Oh my gosh.
delivery guy goes to the wrong door. Like, it's bad.
This book was a trip.
He's delivering charms for Dorothea, but he goes upstairs.
He goes upstairs.
Gets murdered. Dorothea walks out, just
Beats
goes,
up her-
gets her box, and
Yeah.
is like, fucking Forsaken. Goes back to her room. Dorothea, she died too soon. I enjoyed her in the audiobook I listened to. She had this like
Oh my gosh.
gravelly,
It was so
like
bad.
old fortune teller lady voice. It's all like,
I hated
it's
that
a little,
audiobook.
your mom gave them to me.
Dorothea had cucumber sandwiches?
Yes.
Yeah, she had cucumber sandwiches and tea.
That apparently Clary ate all the sandwiches.
Ate all the sandwiches.
I was dead convinced she was about to be poisoned, but
I know when she like offered up, like, you guys want some tea? I was like,
I was like,
I'm
you
not
do
taking
not-
nothing. Like, that
do
sounds
not drink
suspicious.
things that were not prepared in front of you.
Yeah, I immediately was suspicious of that offer, and they're like, okay.
There were so many times in the book where, like, the book got to, or going back to like plot and pacing a little bit, there were so many times when it would get to a point where I was like, do I actually like this book? And then something happens and I go, never mind. we were so close to being friends. All the way up that we get to the end point where Valentine's being such a deliciously, delightfully devious man. And I'm like, oh my God, I love a good antagonist. I love a good villain. And then
I love a good
and then I'm
villain.
like, oh, do I love this book? And then the whole thing with Jace and her cuddling, and I'm like, no, we do not.
Yeah.
I don't.
We
Yeah.
do
don't.
not. We don't.
Because that's
No.
the thing. Cassandra Clare, she's so tropey. Like, she has so many like YA standard, like, again, like, this was in the golden era of YA when like they were setting like kind of what became the standard. So yeah, it definitely has that
Really
teen, grasp to it. And I mean, I write YA, I read YA, I like YA, but some of the stuff was just not for me. Pacing wise, I have to say though, it felt like they moved location a lot. Like, they were constantly in motion. Like, I remember there's one scene and they're like having dialogue talking. I'm like, where are they physically standing right now? I was like, I was like, I lost it. Like, because they're moved so often. They're constantly going somewhere, which I think, I don't know if it was good or not.
I just picture the the scene where Brother Jeremiah is taking them to the City of Bones on his little
Magic
carriage. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
picturing like the night bus scene in Harry Potter where you think they can't see him and they're just like zooming through him, but it's like some like old blind monk.
Yeah, there were a lot of scenes or just moments where it's like you had to remember, like, oh yeah, this was a fanfic. Like, is this a nod to this? Is this supposed to be that? But again, I was a little bit off with I thought the book was older than it was. So
Yeah.
some of the stuff I was like, oh, okay, I have to give Cassandra Clare some credit for some of this stuff because this, was 2007. So credit where it's due. Clearly she did something right because she got a lot of,
I mean, she's still
success from
putting
this.
out books for it.
Yeah, she got a huge fandom.
It's huge. And they're dedicated.
How do we
That's a
feel
lot of
about the
books.
tone and the writing style?
I have a love-hate relationship with the tone because it's so Clary. And
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings with Clary. Also, for the writing style, like I said earlier, it felt like there were times when she was trying to adjust a really heavy tone or topic, but it was just so blasé or dismissed so quickly. Like Clary's having an understandable meltdown when she finds out that Magnus was the one who put the block in her mind and like took away her memories. And she straight up uses the phrase, which mild trigger warning for anybody, that she's like, you mind raped me. And I'm like, at this part of the book, she is basically saying and finding out that her mother paid this random man to mind rape her. This is how she perceives what is happening and what is going on. And then like he is like, hey, so yeah, we did this every year. You're like, I've seen you grow up. You're the only kid I've ever seen grow up. And I'm like, this feels like something was just moved past. And this and knowing that this has been happening every 2 years doesn't make it better.
Well, and also finding out that she's not getting her memories back either.
Yeah,
like
they
were stolen and she might not even get them back. Like, and then like you said, like it was just brushed over.
Yeah, it's like she might get them back. They might come back really quickly. They might come back really slowly. Nobody actually knows, which I think is just like one of those vague things that like.
Yeah, it felt like for plot reasons
with that. So like she can bring things back at convenience, but if she needs something that Clary realistically should have known, but like it happened during a mind wipe, she could have just been like, oh well.
Yeah, it's kind of like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah,
Cassandra Clare while writing. Well,
but
that must have been
and then
blocked
she never
off.
deals with that either. She like there are so many things that she does take time to like deal with or to process or to grieve, but she never deals with that because then Simon gets pickpocketed out of her backpack.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And she's immediately thrown into that.
You guys, my favorite part of the book, all the rat representation. Oh my gosh. I was living for it. Even before the Simon part, like I'm a person, like for me, like rat is like an Easter egg in books for me. So it's like all the books I write, I try to sneak it in somehow. Like somehow. So when I see it in books, like also Train, because Nostalgia Train, like I just have like a list of like, or even Troublemaker. Every time I see Troublemaker or something like, I don't know, I have just a list of words. And
it just makes you smile.
It appeared so many times. It made me smile a million times every time I saw it.
I love that.
So my favorite part of the book.
Rat
Simon.
A great part of the book. I liked Raphael. I think his name was.
Yep, it was Raphael.
Yeah, he was introduced, and you can see in my notes where I'm like, oh my god, I love him. Oh, he's so amazing. Oh, he's gonna betray me.
Yeah,
I don't understand how they didn't immediately. Like, I mean, Jason basically immediately knew who he was, but freaking Clary's dumbass. She's like, you're outside a freaking hotel for vampires,
she's
and you
trusting. She's way too trusting.
And then when he follows them in, she was like, "Oh, you were supposed to jump in after us."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Is he going to help murder you?" And then like, they
just happened to know the entrance.
Yeah, and then they like it's all like, oh, he disappeared, but there's like no trace of him leaving or anything. And then they find him and he's like, oh, I just ran here. And I'm like, Clary, you said there was no trace, Clary. You noticed a thing. Process the danger.
Yeah. Like, remember when they said that
Huh?
everything's real? This is in that moment where you're supposed to be like, hey, I'm pretty sure that lore said about the vampires that they don't do this. They don't leave footprints. Raphael just didn't leave a footprint. That sounds kind of
Right? Like, come on.
familiar. Yeah.
Sorry,
But
random
nope.
thing I just remembered.
Right over her head.
When they go into Luke's and they see the manacles. And she's like, don't say anything about it being kinky. And I'm like,
Yes.
but I wanted someone to make a joke. And she's just like, that's my kind of dad. Oh, one of the questionable things too was it's all like, so Luke doesn't want her to call him Uncle Luke because he's not her uncle. And I'm like, because he's got the hots for your mom. And then she's like, because it reminds him of Uncle Tom's cabin. And I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, I forgot about that line. Totally forgot about that.
and then she just continues, and I'm like,
It was so out of left field. Like,
I
is
was
like
like,
any
did I
uncle? Like anybody
I
called
hear
uncle gets
that
that comparison or what? Like what? That's
I was like,
Luke, Tom. Like
so,
what?
so is this a really bad way to tell me that Luke is not white? I need to know why this
Yeah,
extremely specific reference was made at this
it just
time,
was so
and
out
then
of left
never-
field.
It
I
never
was
comes
like,
back. It never comes.
no, but honestly, that's the thing about
I
the
was-
writing style. Like, it was consistently having like
Mhm.
small, like weird little problematic things, or even like you
Mhm.
said, how she said, what did she say,
Mhm.
mind raped or whatever? It's like, oh, that's just like
Mhm.
classic Clary, how she talks. Like, but again, 2007, 15-year-olds did talk like that. So part of me is like, yeah, it kind of is for the era. Like a lot of the
Just
things she
because
said.
it's authentic doesn't
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, I don't like this girl. She's a jerk. Everything she says is rude
It's
or
like, I would not have
problematic.
liked her in school at all. I would not
Yeah,
have
but
been
again,
a fan.
also just the
I'm getting to
narration would
know-
say things like too, like how they said, ugly people don't want to be immortal. I was like,
And getting to know Luke better, I'm like, that doesn't feel like a thing Luke would have said.
yeah, it really doesn't
It's
actually.
very out
Like
of character for Luke.
super out of character. Oh, one other thing about like the writing style that she did this, like I don't know how many times she did it. I think as a writer, you can get away with doing this one time. If there's like a quote from a book or something that you really love, to be like, oh, that reminds me of this quote that fits the moment perfectly, and then like drop it out. And she did it way too many times, like too many times for Clary to just remember the perfect quote in the perfect moment. And they
I
mentioned
don't
Clary
remember
liking
what word
books.
it was. There was a word that she was talking about Simon, and she's like, my mom would have called him this. And I was like, the fuck even is that word? I had to look it up, and I don't remember what it was now. And I don't remember what it really even means. And it's like, you know good and well she don't call him that. Like, that's a stupid word. Like
You
stop.
pulled out your thesaurus.
Like,
Oh, I know
you
what
stop.
moment you're talking about, but I think I was reading that part when I was getting tired yesterday, and my
Yeah.
poor dyslexic ears was like, I ain't even gonna try to spell that to look it up. I'm gonna just
Yeah,
move
no,
on
I
to
looked it
Monday.
up and I was like, what does this word even mean?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but well, they said that, right? They said like, "Oh, Clary likes books," but then like it didn't really come back around. And then all the things she remembered, like I remember that from school one time, and it reminded me like having flashbacks to the Throne of Glass discussion, of when like, oh, of course she loves books and can play piano, and then Jace could play piano. I was like, this is just like. Again, hitting all the YA stereotypes, like
Oh,
a
yeah,
book
when she was,
lover,
like-
a piano
When
player.
he was playing piano, and I was like, of course he's playing fucking piano.
Oh, and she likes drawing too. Knock
Damn
that one
it.
off.
Prophetic dreams.
Oh.
I liked her prophetic dreams
Mhm.
and the symbols.
Mark
they
that one
hold.
off the YA tropes is what she got. She got them all. She
Yep.
got the tropes. I told you. Got a little bit of amnesia. She got a little bit of dreams. She got a little bit of a love triangle.
she
A
had
little bit
everything.
There were so
Uh,
many.
I just want
times.
that. I would like that
As a-
nightclub in my town. Okay, like where was that club to have a teen
Pandemonium?
night when I was a teen? Okay,
It seemed
clubs don't
weirdly
have teen
safe
nights.
for a vampire club too. I was just
Yeah,
weirdly safe for a vampire club. They
Yeah.
don't have people go missing more often.
Well,
Yeah.
it made me wonder if like that was if it was like if that was like where the vampires go, like if that was like or if it was like
They call it a vampire club at one point in the book, I think. Don't quote me
Oh,
on
did
that.
they?
I'm
Well,
pretty
because I was
sure
just wondering,
they
like,
do
if
later
that was
in
like
the book.
actually like a club where the vampires would hang out, or if that was like one of those clubs where people make where they're like, "Oh, we want to have a vampire club theme,"
No, no,
and that's the
I
theme
think
that they
make
used.
reference to it later when Isabel's talking about she got Magnus's flyer from Pandemonium. I think one of the guys makes an offhanded comment about the vampire club. But I could be imagining things to make myself right. I don't know. Like I said, don't quote me on it.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense completely. But like you said, it's like, how is it so safe? Like just to be
The only
hanging out
thing
on a
I
teen
could
night.
think is that like the vampires who are running it are all like, we can't get our like the conclave that never does anything can't get in trouble. We can't get in trouble with them, so we got to
Yeah.
keep it safe.
Yeah, because
Safest club in
they
town.
somehow like if Simon getting kidnapped was still counting as him trespassing.
Right?
Because he's like, he's
Yeah.
on our
Oh,
property.
yeah.
Come
Like,
on.
like you kidnapped our friend.
Oh,
He's like, well, he's on our property, so it broke the
That
cords
one
anyways. It's like, you
vampire.
kidnapped him.
Let me tell you, I was so annoyed when they're fucking sitting there edging it up, right? That's what the term I'm gonna call it right now because my brain died. So they're like edging it up, like really ramping. That's the word, ramping up the tension. Where they're like, oh yeah, they can't kill hunters, but they might kidnap the pet to like torture and kill it because they think it's funny and all this stuff. And they keep saying that, like, oh, they're probably gonna kill Simon because of this and that. And then they get there, and the vampire's like, I just thought it was Gregor.
I just
thought it was my buddy. Like you thought your buddy.
and I thought it was weird.
You thought your buddy climbed into some random person's backpack. I'm also convinced you're not the same vampire that bumped into her and stole the rat. But like, I'm supposed to believe these things right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like rats, so I was just enamored with that.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna like that scene.
On like the topic writing style, I feel like she didn't give that many words to like describing settings for the amount of moving around they do. Like, I don't know, like she has New York City as the setting, and it's like, oh, I don't know. I just think I wanted more of this
She leaned into our
visceral city feeling.
Understanding
She
of New
leaned-
York.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I was about
She
to think.
leaned
That's
into
what I was thinking
people's
too.
like understandings of stuff. So it's like, oh well, you know what a cab looks like. They got in the cab. You know what an
what the
apartment
subway
building
looks
looks like.
Yeah.
This apartment is different because it's got a winding staircase and blah blah. She leaned very heavily into that, which is a your mileage may vary thing. Some people really enjoy that. Some people don't.
Yeah.
I think
I have
didn't, like,
aphantasia, so it doesn't really matter to
just
me.
for like the general writing style, I don't think I 100% vibed. I think she had some good dialogue moments. I will say that. But again, especially with Jace, but again, his apparently allegedly was some of it was recycled. So, but isn't plagiarism to plagiarize yourself? Like,
No, you're just using your own things. Like I
like
don't
I
see
said,
anything wrong with her recycling. I actually think it's quite skillful to recycle them and still have them fit in a different context than they were originally written for.
yeah,
So-
again, I had only read like headlines. I didn't read actual articles, so I didn't know exactly what the details were about.
It's different. So say she wrote the Draco trilogy and she took some dialogue from the actual books and put it in there to kind of like build into it and then used that in her own novels. That would be plagiarizing because it's originally from the Harry Potter books. But if she's writing a fan fiction and the fan fiction is basically transformed to the point where it's barely recognizable as Harry Potter literature, then for her to self-reference her own writing, I don't see that that's plagiarism because plagiarizing is copying somebody else's homework. And this is her
Is
homework.
the issue about it the fact that she had posted it up on a fanfic site? Is that the issue that had been like?
I think people just wanted to make a big.
Well, to
stink
me,
about it.
that's no different than what Sarah J. Maas did then. Like hers was a fanfic too.
A lot of
and
things
then it
started out
turned
as
into a lot of
fanfic.
the same thing with like 50
It
Shades of
would-
Grey. That was a Twilight
think
fanfic.
It would largely depend just on what fanfiction.net's terms of services
Yeah,
says
maybe that
about
was
that.
it. Yeah. Perhaps
But
that was it. Like I said, I didn't look completely
did
into
read
it, but I know that
something
was a big thing. Because didn't she even have a
that she
lawsuit
was
surrounding this?
she was banned from fanfiction.net.
Oh
so
yeah, I heard that too.
had to.
Mm.
But I don't know
Yeah,
for 100%
no
certain. I
telling.
didn't do that deep a dive into
No, I didn't know. I didn't even know about
Well,
any of that until y'all brought it up.
It's scrubbed from
But
her
yeah.
Wikipedia. I had to look for it because I've heard this, people like booktubers a lot
It's-
reference
It's
these
also
problematic aspects.
okay. So it's one of those things where say I don't understand how plagiarism works, right? And I do understand how it works, but I don't know all of the history of all of this that's going on, right? And so I'm
Mhm.
reading City of Bones, right? And I was a huge Harry Potter fan. I've read all the Harry Potter fan fictions. And in City of Bones, I'm noticing that Jace reminds me a lot of Draco from the Draco trilogy, right? And so I go double check and I see, and then I go online and I get angry and stuff because I'm like, oh, the author of City of Bones plagiarized from a fan fiction author. I like, how can authors do this to fan fiction writers? And I get angry and stuff, right? And then other people also get angry on the author or on the fan fiction author's behalf. And then like nobody fact checks or looks at what's going on. And then finally somebody does. More people are going to see the initial anger than are going to see the fact checking. That's just like
Mhm.
that's just statistics. That's how it goes. So it could have been like one of those things, especially if it's hard to find facts on it now, because like once that stuff is kind of disproven or is fact checked, it will die down and
Mhm.
like it eventually gets buried because it's not true and because people have proven that it's not true. So
Yeah.
it's not as
Well, a lot of
not as
people like they
spicy
don't want to look
anymore.
stupid if they
Yeah.
were a part of that crowd that were ridiculing her over something
so
that
they'll
wasn't true. Some people start deleting their stuff where
They'll
you can't
delete
Okay, but
find
I
it
it.
as
thought
easy.
that I heard that she
Mhm.
had actually had a lawsuit about this.
If the lawsuit got dropped too, then they could have tried to bury it and stuff.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
don't
lot of
I'm
things.
really not
It's
well
like
informed enough on this to really speak on it, but I do know that that
yeah, I'm just
scandal
throwing out
and this kind of stuff has followed her career, and I don't know again how prevalent it is, and if maybe some of it does get elevated because people have the ick about the incest stuff that she has.
definitely like
And I think also there's a jealousy factor. Let's be honest. She's super
100%.
successful.
Especially like
and also it has the stuff teen girls like is bad and let's
yeah, there's layers and layers and layers. And
Yeah.
like it's definitely because you read it and we all agree whether we like the book or not, it is not the greatest written. It's not a masterpiece. You're not taking a master class on how to write fiction from this particular novel. So people, read that, and people who read the book and like think more of themselves than they should can get mad and be like, oh, well, if this drivel can be so successful, why isn't my stuff doing better? And then get angry about things and find reasons to hate people, specifically the author of this book. So there's a lot of reasons people might people. But like there's one author who I can't remember. I mean, just as an example of like trying to bury or shift things on the internet. They got a lot of heat for aging their characters down and releasing a book as YA when it was grotesquely not YA. And then, but as like time went on, their book is no longer labeled YA. It's not labeled as YA on their website or their Wikipedia. The like you actually have to kind of look to see what its age category is. It's still technically YA. They've just tried to bury the mention of it being YA anywhere. Because like my husband and I were talking about the book, and I was like, because he read it and he's like, well, hun, he's like, the characters are a little young. He's like, but the book is kind of fine. And I'm like, well, yeah, my issue was that it's a YA book. And I have a very firm stance about what's okay in YA versus what's okay in adult. And he was like, it's not a YA. And I'm like, it is a YA. And we had to go on a hunt. And I was like, look, he's like, babe, it doesn't say it's a YA on her website. And I fucking went looking to prove my point, and I was right. But I was like, I shouldn't have had to look that hard.
Well, I honestly feel like age category discussion and what things get marketed as has been sort of a reoccurring theme in like the nostalgia train discussions because these are all older titles. Categories have changed. What's
I feel like,
marketable has changed.
I feel
Like we
like
talked
this
about
one,
this with the Golden Compass. Like that was marketed at a middle grade, or at the time YA, but now is marketed middle grade. And I heard that Philip Pullman wrote it as a just straight up adult book, but the publisher was like, "Oh, the character's a kid, so we're marketing this to kids." And now I understand like why I wasn't like vibing with the tone in that way, but I didn't know that beforehand. So
Yep.
I feel like this book, it's a YA. Like,
Yeah, it's a YA.
This is like
appropriate for it's appropriatively YA with some things that I don't want in any book.
If the incest was to be removed, I think it would be appropriately YA.
I will be I'm fine with incest in Song of Ice and Fire, like an adult series where you know what you're getting, but like I don't want to see it in YA.
Violet had me so concerned. But yes, in adult novels, if one wishes to write and read incest in adult novels,
or have also some
That's
commentary
completely
and
different.
you
reason
do
to
your
it.
own thing. You do
But
you.
just for
There's-
like it came off as like a kink in this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think rubs people the wrong way. It's like incest for what? Like what is
Incest for
what are we
why?
trying to say here, Cassandra? That's not
I
even her name,
would've-
that's her pen name.
I would have been so much happier if like the conversation had not been, oh well, Jace and Clary are siblings, and more, Jace is my son even though you are blood of my blood. And it's just that conversation, nurture versus nature, right? Like
Yeah.
that could have been a fun conversation to have. And like even at the end of the book, Jace is like, well, she's not my mother. And I'm like, he is correct. She is not his mother in any capacity. She is not his biological mother. She is not the woman who raised him. Stop trying to force this on this poor boy.
Yeah, he's like, if you just go see her in the hospital and she can hear
I'm like,
your
I
voice
would
that
be
she's
so
never fucking heard
pissed.
before.
I was like, I will be so pissed if this book ends with
wakes
him
up.
seeing her in the hospital and her waking up and thinking that's her son.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
god, I would have
I'm getting the
raged
ick all
so
over
hard.
again. Yeah, I don't
We
know.
would have seen a very different Sam here today. if that's
Yeah.
how the book ended.
I'm honestly really proud of myself for getting through the book. And it does have the honor of being like my least favorite book of all the Nostalgia Train books, beating out Throne of Glass. Congratulations, City of Bone. Damn.
But are you glad we changed it? Because we were going to read
well, the thing
Shadow
is,
and
yeah.
Bone.
I have already read Shadow and Bone, so I guess it's good I learned something new. And now, like,
You learned something
if
new.
I have hot takes about Cassandra Clare, it's not like I'm going in
That was-
so uninformed. I have a taste of what she's got to offer.
See,
It's
that was
incest.
My
that
brother
was
says
one
the
of
same
my
thing.
things. For it's like when we read any of these books, because a lot of the books I see that were like picked and stuff, I was like, oh, these are books that I have avoided reading for XYZ. And I'm like, oh, but I do love to be informed about things that I don't like.
Yeah.
Oh, if
So
we're being
it's
100%
It's like, well, I do love a good
honest,
discussion.
I'm pretty sure when I announced the book club, when I was like, I'm starting a book club, guys, this is what it's going to be. These are the type of books. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I said in books I never want to read, like City of Bone is. I put it up there saying like I would never read it in the announcement video.
And the first time I
Oh.
suggest City of Bones, you're like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, because I had bought it. Like this was an impulse buy because it was like I don't know, like €1 at the thrift market, and it's like a brand new edition. Like
Ugh.
nobody ever read this. Like I don't know. So I was like, for
Yeah,
€1,
it's
I'm
too
going to
ugly.
buy it.
Look, the
And it's like-
universe the universe was like, Sam needs to read this book, and there's only one way on this God-given earth. She is going to do it, and it is for this book club. Oh, I wanted to kind of discuss the religious but totally not religious themes in this book.
Yeah.
It's the selection of Nostalgia Train books.
Next year,
religious
we have
themes.
to have Violet's pick, where she has to pick 1 or 2 books that she loves that we all have to read because of all of the things that she is made to read for the book club.
Mhm.
This is my
Yo,
book.
I read Warrior Cats. That's such like a weird fever dream of a book, and it's not even like at the bottom.
Oh, my sister used to those books were her jam, so I know exactly what that's a book I actually know. I never know any of the books. I'm so happy. I knew that one. So yeah, I was really jamming with the world lore until they were basically like, yeah, Judo-Christian, that's all the Japanese Oni. Yeah, they're really the demons in this very
Oh yeah, I
and it's
forgot
just
there
like
was like that
all
kind
of
of like
and I was like, for why?
it
For
was
why
like
have we
again
done this?
it was again one of those things like Cassandra Clare just wanted to like be like everything goes. So it's
And
like
the
yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's a weird mix of everything goes and nothing but this one thing is correct. Because
I
then
don't
she's
know, it
also
felt
like
awkward to me.
she was like the Fae folk. And I'm like, okay, so the Fae folk, you mean the Fae folk distinctly from pagan religions that the Crusades wiped out? And they're like, yeah, they're demons and angels. And I'm like, well, I'll take my pagan ass over here, thank you. So it's just like, and then literally the circle's motto, I forgot what it is
Oh yeah.
from the Crusades. That is what the Crusades said when they marched their happy asses across Europe, wiping out paganism. So I was like, I want to like your world lore so much. I really do. Your world lore is kind of cool. But also, my little pagan heart hurts. It weeps. It cries. My ancestors. They can't take
Yeah,
this.
there was definitely a lot
Oh.
of implied things that she was
Mhm.
saying about other people's
have-
religions and stuff,
Yeah.
or
I have
lack
listed
thereof.
here in my notes, I've got like the different groups and stuff. And for shadow hunters, I said the semi-religious, not religious, and deaf not based on the Catholic Church organization who fight demons. But it's like,
Yeah.
It
Well, and the
didn't-
funny
it
thing is,
felt
like, they even like, we don't believe in that. Like, he was like, I don't really believe in this, but then he still had to pray to get into the church.
No, but didn't it feel kind of like unintentional subtext at some point? Like Cassandra Clare was just like letting her opinions kind of come through unintentionally. That's what it
yeah,
felt like to
like,
me.
like for the record, I'm not saying that she did this intentionally.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
just
think she
saying
did.
that this is such a thing, especially in this genre, that it's frustrating and it's there. And the fact that it's unintentional just makes it more egregious because it's like it's so normalized that it's
Well, it just really the whole book in a way felt like a Frankenstein of like, yeah, different tropes, different
Mhm.
archetypes, different a little bit of
It's like
this, a little bit of
she had
that.
a list. She had a list of things, and she needed to check the boxes.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I need this trope, I need this atmosphere, I need this, I need that. Like, but then it
Throw in
never
a
really
pinch of
was
this, a pinch of
fully
that.
like, yeah, it was never really like a
Eh,
fully
A
like
bunch of
fleshed out
incest. This
thing.
was her with the incest. You know, like
I like the magic tattoos. That was my
Oh
favorite
yeah, the
part.
tattoos. Yeah, we can throw that
I
in
might
there.
be a little biased though, because I just put magic tattoos in everything I can because I just think they're really cool.
Yeah, I did like the tattoos. I liked the how she like described the glamour. Like, she's like, it just doesn't work. I don't remember how she said it, but I
It's
liked how
basically
she
the
described
veil.
it. Yeah.
It's basically the most paranormal fiction refers to it as the veil
Yeah.
between supernats and mundanes. So or
Mhm.
the mist. The veil and the mist are the two most common words for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I can easily say my favorite part of the book was rats. My least favorite part was erasing the countries between France and Germany. And the
They're
incest, of
just
course.
behind. They're just behind the veil.
Yeah.
Except Switzerland. Ah, precisely. Of course, Switzerland.
Oh
is-
yes,
Just a
Switzerland's there.
simple
That's-
map
Swiss-
would have just
No,
Switzerland.
but that was one
But
thing I did see on
just a
Cassandra
simple map
Clare's
would have done it for her. All she
Wikipedia.
had
It
to
was
do.
like,
Wait, does she
That
have
she-
a map on the Wikipedia that just
No.
erases the countries? Because that would be
no,
hilarious.
it's just that says that she was born in Iran to American parents, but like spent a lot
Oh.
of time growing up in Switzerland, England, and France. And I was like, okay.
But if you grew up in Switzerland,
That was the thing. I was like, if you spend a lot of time in these countries, you should like.
this now feels
So it makes
like
me wonder if there's like a
intentional
side
shade.
eye. Yeah, so it makes
No,
me
like,
wonder
I
if there's
gave
a
her,
side
like,
eye,
the
benefit
all
of the
those countries
doubt.
Do not matter. Yeah, it
I
makes me wonder if
gave
there's
her
a
the
side eye.
benefit of the. I
Yeah,
gave
no,
her
it was-
the benefit of the doubt before I had this
No.
information.
Yeah,
now
now
I'm
that I have that
judging.
information, it's intentional side eye to all those other countries because she's from Switzerland.
She's being
It
shady.
just felt weird to me. It did feel weird to me. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Do you guys have any final thoughts, or do I have any other banners that we need to discuss? We hit a lot of things.
I don't have any final thoughts.
What
I'm
else
so
is up?
excited to read The Hobbit though.
I had.
I'm gonna
I
do
might
it on
have
audio.
Okay.
I need
Sorry,
to look
my
and
husband
see.
came in to inform
Hi,
me of
husband.
something. Casey says hi. I did not.
Oh, I thought it had.
It might.
I think I don't really have anything else to say about the book.
I will say the tube commands. I thought it was cool that like their daggers and stuff are kept in little tubes. I didn't fully grasp or understand exactly how it worked because it seemed to like it seemed like she had a set of rules, right? You take the tube, you say a command word, it becomes a type of dagger, and then some of these daggers are used to fight and others are used to finish off runes, and that specific dagger has to be used to finish the rune to activate the spell. But then after that scene, none of that mattered anymore, and you just did whatever you wanted with the same dagger. And I was
So
like,
the Steely isn't a
why?
dagger. The Steely is just so what they use to draw the runes on isn't a dagger. It's just a Steely. It's like a freaking ballpoint pen just to draw on the tattoos. It's not a weapon.
right.
Oh, see, I didn't even know what that was. I was just
Right.
imagining like a stick.
But
No.
in the scene where it's introduced, they take out the tube and he says San Savai or San Sanvi, and it turns into a dagger for fighting. And then he pulls out another tube and says Sanvi, and it turns in, and it's described as it looks like the same kind of dagger, but then they call it the Sealy and say that they use it to carve the rest of the rune in.
Yeah.
And then he goes into an explanation about the Sealy, therefore implying they are both daggers that look almost identical.
Yeah, no, the Steelies are like, I mean, they had them in the movie.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
something else, but
Yeah, no,
then,
it's- those
like I
are-
said,
Yeah.
it felt like
Yeah,
they
I
told me
didn't.
a
I didn't
set of
even catch
rules
on
and
to
then it
that.
didn't.
I guess because like I guess when I
'Cause
was
it's
reading
only
it,
in
I already
one
had the two
scene.
separated, so I didn't catch on that like she like kind of
Oh.
combined them.
See, I didn't even try to
Yeah.
understand it because, like,
I went back and listened to it. Like,
No,
I
it's like
googled how to
parts of
spell the
this
words.
story like were so simple, straightforward, very just like YA easy, and then there was other parts of that was just like, what's going on? But as like,
I was gonna ignore it until like he pulled out the tube and he said one word and then he pulled out another tube and said a different word, and I was like, oh, I want to keep track of this because I was like, this seems like it could be interesting like later. But then never again does he utter the words Sensenvi or Sanvi, and I'm like, so did this not matter? What?
No.
Because he does it. I think it's the first time they go back to the apartment when they fight the Forsaken. But
Yeah, it's like he's having to like activate it or something like that.
yeah.
I
And
don't know.
again, they don't really need to activate them after that point
Mm-mm.
either. They just like pull them out and they do the thing. So I'm like, I don't understand. I don't.
I think like
also-
for me, like, oh, sorry to cut you off, but like a final thought for me, like on this book would also be like, I never felt like I got like fully immersed in the story. Like I always like felt like I could feel Cassandra Clare there. I could feel like her writing process. I could feel like her, like I don't know, it's just like felt like
Hello, Violet.
Instead
No,
of
it
feeling
didn't-
like
I
the
don't know.
character was telling the story, it was feeling like is the writer
Yeah, I
telling the
could really
character
feel
to
like,
tell the story.
okay, this was a
Yeah.
Draco line she copied and pasted. Okay, I can imagine her sitting down to write this scene. Okay, she wanted to include this. Like the whole time, like I never got lost in the story. I always felt her authorial
Yeah.
cloud hovering over.
I'm checking I just want to bring up the way that the groups were named because I thought that was kind of cool. Like the children of Lilith are the offsprings of demons and humans, which is very appropriate because there's like myths that Lilith is the first demon or the mother of all demons.
Mhm.
And then children of the moon, of course, are werewolves. Children of the night, I felt was a cop out, but vampires. Shadow hunters, we know them. The circle, I was like, that's a little plain, but sure, Valentine's cult and all of that.
Sure.
I mean, I wasn't down with demons and how they defined demons, but
Oh yeah, that was
it is what it
yeah.
is. Especially since demons are supposed to be fallen angels. So I'm hoping that that's a thing later on and that they just don't know or they don't bring it up.
Look at Casey having that little look like,
I'm debating whether or not I want to continue the series or just go binge the Wikipedia.
I was just gonna say, I will
Angels
like.
become a big thing. I will say, like, the
I was gonna
angel
guess that if I had to
aspect,
predict.
she gets a lot into the angel stuff.
Well, I
Yeah,
assume so because
it's a lot
the
into the
cup
angel stuff.
requires, the cup requires angel blood to work, and also like she
Mhm.
was seeing Jace with angel wings and stuff, and I'm like, I feel like Valentine did some sketchy things with angel,
Yeah.
maybe demon blood already. I love that I wake up to this live still going and an unsent comment with no context. It happens. That's what they do. I want to skim through my notes, make sure there's nothing I missed.
Yeah, I don't plan on continuing in the series. Like I said, I can kind of would think about like doing that prequel series because again, I did DNF it, but maybe now that I have a little bit of the base, so I might Wikipedia or like watch some BookTube people talk about the rest of the series. Like I'd be interested in
Yeah.
that, or just hear about Cassandra Clare
I'll
drama
read
and
it,
all that.
and then me, and Casey can just do a group call. Where, like, we
I
give you
have
all
the
our-
physical copies of them, and I was thinking about getting rid of them.
I do
Because
not
I
want them.
haven't yet. And so, because they're mixed matched, and I don't like them. And also,
I
I'm probably
got
not going
you.
to read them ever again. But if y'all convince me, I will easily do another reread. I'm pretty sure it'll
look,
be like my
I
fourth
love
one
buddy
of
reading.
that series.
So literally, you want me to read anything that I had previously vowed to never read in my life? Just be like, Sam, you want to buddy read this with me? And I'm like, I'll sell part of my soul. Sure, let's go.
Yeah, I really think it'll be like my fourth time reading the Infernal Devices.
I'm
if I
buddy
was
reading the
to-
Raven Boys with a friend of mine. Although to be clear, I thoroughly enjoy that series. So that's nuts.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like in the reputation of the book club, like nobody wanted to hop on board with us, and for Raven Boys, and like it turned out to be so solid.
You all missed
Have you
that.
finished the whole series?
I'm on book 3.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I finished 2,
me
but
and
I haven't
my-
started 3 yet.
Me and my friend are buddy reading it, and I was ahead of him, but then he finished book 3, and then I had to read this book for the
Let me
club before I
see.
could start book 3. Otherwise, I was not going to. But I will say that the nacho place called Nacho Mama, my favorite name for a nacho place of all time.
I also love. Oh, go ahead.
I specifically have a note here that says that this is in reference to Simon and Clary. It's like those lingering fingers on bare skin. Narrative ain't subtle, but also like no chemistry here. Not fooling me. So like it's not just you, Violet. I was shading the narrative in my notes for the lack of romance. It tried so hard. It tried to make me believe it, and it's a filthy liar. Oh, demons are. Let me scroll up. I have the.
I was just gonna say I knew you had it. So
Demons are malevolent interdimensional beings that travel between worlds, destroying everything in their path. They return to their home dimension, the void, when they die in their corporeal form, is how they are defined. Also, I nicknamed Jace Exposition Boy because
Oh my
90% of the
gosh.
time, if exposition came in dialogue,
Yeah.
it was from him. To the point, our opening scene has him defining something, and the other shadow hunters are like, "Bro, why?"
No, really, the first like few chapters with Jace, he is just exposition. It really bothered me actually. So
Mhm.
after a while, when I started to like him as a character, I was surprised because at first he really was just info dump guy.
Exposition dump.
Yep.
Also, at the beginning, it said, "Every time we catch one of you, you claim to know where Valentine is." And I'm like, I mean, it sounds like maybe Valentine isn't actually dead, my
Yeah,
guy.
like I don't understand why they were so surprised that Valentine was back. It's like everyone kept saying it.
Yeah,
Everyone
everybody kept
I
saying
know
it.
where Valentine's at. Like, you probably should have killed me. I know where he's at.
Oh, I really
Yeah.
liked the alligator centipede and thought it was indeed horrifying.
I loved that
Ravener, that's what it was.
the wolves. I loved that they had their police station disguised as a Japanese, or was it Japanese or Chinese? Chinese food restaurant. I think it was.
Chinese
Was it Chinese food restaurant? Chinese takeout, and they
Mhm.
would actually sometimes go deliver Chinese takeout.
When the
I
pups
thought that
are
was
bored.
hilarious. like when the pups are bored, and we need a little extra money. Like they'll send the pups to go send.
It was very. I thought that was random, but yeah.
I thought that
when
was
he
really
said that, I was like,
funny.
"Where are they
Well,
getting the
it's
food,
Chinatown,
though?
So you
They
know.
just go to some
Well,
other
where are
Chinese
they
food
getting the
restaurant.
food?" Like for me, I just go,
Old Chinese restaurant, like 2 buildings down. They just get it from there.
Just
and
go
they
to
just
different
upcharge
Chinese
it or
food
what? Like I don't know. Like
restaurants.
it just, I was maybe too like realistic thinking like, how would that work? It was funny, like it
So-
was a funny line, but
So some dream symbols: her mother lying in a hospital bed with her eyes like bruises on a white face, is what it said. Luke on top of a pile of bones, which I don't know if that's come to pass or not, but all his little dead pack people. Jace with white feathered wings coming out of his back. Isabel sitting naked with her whip curled around her like golden rings. Simon with crosses burned into his hair. I was so scared for this boy the entire book because of this dream.
Wait,
Is it like
what
the
is it?
vampires
With crosses
took
burned
him?
into
I'm like,
what?
this is
Mhm.
where he dies. So it says
What
crosses
it says?
burned into his hands. I was dead convinced when they went to the vampire place, especially with them ramping it up. I'm like, he's gonna be fucking on a cross. They're gonna have crucified this boy, burned crosses in his hand, and then they're just like the little pulls rat Simon out. I thought he was Gregor. I'm like, I hate you all. And then angels falling and burning out of the sky. And I was like, in my mind, I go, so they become demons, but that's not how demons work here. I haven't know any semblance of subtlety for the cannon ship has flown out the window, but I don't know what it was in reference to.
One thing that also bothered me was at the end when they were in the mansion or the old hospital or whatever. They were so worried about the Forsaken getting up there to them. They're like the Forsaken's coming. They're going to get to us. And I'm like, Valentine, you're the one that called them.
Oh yeah.
I know. Like, I think he
Like,
knew it was
why
the
are you-
werewolf. So
No, but like even after Luke was like up in the room and they're like, they're coming, they're gonna die, like we're gonna die, and we're like, they're still freaking out about the Forsaken. I'm like, you could just call them off, like he's acting like he wasn't the one that called them there.
I also did not particularly enjoy the fact that Clary got to smack Jace a couple times with like no retribution or consequences. Yes, he was mildly being a dick on one of the occasions, but also like, girl, he's supposed to be your canon love interest. No, this is
I
not
forgot about that. Like even considering like all of Clary's things like that got buried for me. I forgot about that. I just wanted to say to Savion, did you miss the part where I said that this was my least favorite book of everything we've covered in the book club? Last place.
I have a note. I deep sigh that Clary was embarrassed by Simon playing D&D. Lady,
I loved it. I was so happy when they mentioned D&D, and I was like, "What?
Oh yeah,
I
I love how unashamedly nerdy he is. And you know what, people? D&D's got some like mythologically accurate shit. Like, don't discount his knowledge just because it's a game. How dare you be embarrassed by my
this
boy?
isn't D&D.
No, I kind of liked Simon. I didn't like
That's
Simon
his
for
one
Clary
thing.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked Simon as
really-
like a character, but I didn't
so-
like him as like a love interest at all.
I hated her, or I hated the idea of Simon and Clary, but I loved the idea of Simon and Isabel. And like I
Mhm.
really liked Isabel as a good contrast or foil to Clary, and I appreciated that they went out of the way to be like, well, Isabel's just used to being the only girl in a group of guy friends, so she's not really sure how to adjust to having another girl in the group. Because I'm like, as the girl who is in a group of
Mhm.
nerd boys, and then we would, have another girl enter. There was always this weird transition period
Oh,
where
yeah.
we had to get used to each other because, like, I didn't know how she was going to react to me. She didn't know how I was going to be. It shouldn't be a thing, but it very much was a thing. And then, Isabel, like, gets over it, and she's like, yeah, no, it's fine. I was worried about you, too, when we thought you were dead.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm
what
like,
I didn't like about them, like, kind of, coming to their thing at the end, where they're
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, like, let's be friends now," was like Isabel acting like she was like the bad one. We know damn well Clary like thought like terrible things about
Right,
Isabel the whole time.
I'm like,
Mhm.
look, Clary needs some. She needs
I
some
was
come
like,
to Jesus moment. She needs to
Clary.
be held responsible for
Yeah.
her behavior. But I love Isabel, and this just makes me love Isabel more. And
Yep.
Isabel and Simon were actually kind of cute together before the drunken escapades. But nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, they're
The lack
teenagers.
of I said the lack of chemistry and prevalence of jealousy
Ah.
is an interesting combo. This teen drama is messy, messy, messy. Oh my damns, this is about to get juicy. Reveal your dark past. Sometimes I'm like, I need to provide context for when I have these thoughts.
Didn't like any of them as possible romantic subplots. I feel that. I think we can wrap up. Yeah?
think so.
I don't have anything
yeah.
else to say.
I just have one more question.
'Kay.
How did y'all feel about the relationship between Jocelyn and Magnus? Not Magnus. Valentine.
Oh, Valentine?
Yeah, Jocelyn and Valentine.
So it sounded like she was going after him because he was like the dark and mysterious sad boy type.
That's
And
not
that's
how
why she-
anybody describes Valentine, though. He's the opposite.
Yeah,
Like-
but that's what she saw in him all of a sudden.
I just kept thinking
Yeah.
about it in like Harry Potter terms, like, the backstory with all the parents. And I was like, oh,
That's
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really think about their relationship too much, but
I
Yeah.
did because like it's the villain romances that Sam likes above everything else, and she will not lie. Especially in a teen drama, the villains are all adults, so I want to know about the adult. And I also like, how did we get here, Jocelyn? How did you become the possible ex-wife of the villain who still seems to be obsessively in love with you? So
well, as like for Jocelyn, like I don't understand how if you're trying to get away from the Shadowhunter community, why did you go to New York where there's like a big institute? I mean, unless you had to be close to a warlock that had the power to do the blocking
Oh, I
that
guess
you needed
so,
for
yeah.
Clary's brain.
Yeah, I think she
So,
went
so
there.
she's probably there for Magnus. And now that I think of it, but like before I thought of it, I'm like, why are you going to New York City? Like that's
Well,
not
to be fair, for
the most
16,
discreet place.
Like to be fair, I think it just speaks to how good a shadow hunter she is. Because for 16 years, they could not find her.
Or how
like-
bad they are.
Yeah, well, both. I'll go with both.
I mean,
But like she kept herself and Clary hidden very well for 16 years. And the only reason they even found Clary was just because like
She happened to
Clary
be right place,
happened
right
to
time.
run into yeah, and that's it. And even then, like they basically still couldn't prove that she was a shadow hunter, right?
No, it wasn't until
So-
Jace used his steal on her and she didn't die.
Yeah, which he wasn't even supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like she could have, it could have gone very poorly.
He was
for
just
her.
banking on that she can
that
see
he's
me,
always
so-
right.
Yeah.
Little
She was like,
arrogant
she
fucker.
can see me, so she has to be. Because if she couldn't, she wouldn't be able to see through the glamour. So he was just banking on that one thing.
See, I feel like there was a point in time because they got married like pretty young, like teenagers. They got married from the way the book talked. So I think like they legitimately were a happy couple, and then slowly Valentine like revealed what he was, and she made her escape plan.
Yeah.
So, but which just
no,
kind of
I definitely agree with that assessment too. Yeah.
Especially because she had not one, but 2 babies with him. And she loves her children.
I don't know. I feel like I can't judge like Jocelyn so much just because she was like MIA for so much of the book.
Yeah, but we can learn a lot about her through her actions and like what she did and what little attitude she had. Like I'm pretty sure she put herself in a magic coma. Pretty sure she did that. Especially since like Valentine couldn't figure out how to wake her up. So
Oh no. Because I don't have a lot of big thoughts on her. I think maybe at the beginning when she was around and like, keeping things secret from Clary or how I thought things were going to go with her. I don't know.
But I still got the feeling from even at the beginning, like she was still like a caring mother that just like wanted like the best for her daughter. Like it wasn't trying to like she was hiding things from her, but at the same time, like she was really doing it for her safety.
It felt like she thought the moment she told Clary about the shadow, about the greater world was the moment that it would become real and that Clary would have to deal with it or be drawn into it. And she was trying to avoid that as long as possible. Because like Luke wanted her to know. Luke was, like if she knows like that we can make her safer. And like Jocelyn is basically like, no, like
she's like, there's no way she could be safe in that community.
Yeah. She's like, you can't be safe in that world, like no matter what. If you're a shadow hunter, then you have to fight demons. And so she's like, and that's what got my son killed and my parents killed. And why I'm a widow, or maybe not. Actually, no, because she told Luke that she always thought Valentine was alive. So somehow she knew that corpse was not her husband. So she was hiding from the Conclave and Valentine. Yep. So like the moment Clary knew, then Valentine could find her.
It's a mess.
Messy.
Yeah, definitely. I think soap opera was a good comparison.
Drama.
Wait, I'm gonna take down the spoiler banner. I don't have a banner for The Hobbit.
Done here,
but everybody knows we're reading The Hobbit in December. We're taking November off for NaNoWriMo. Subscribe to the new book club channel because that's where things are going to be from now on.
You should link it down below.
Should be in the description. Do my co-hosts have anything they would like to say, promote, whatever?
I have a spooky flash fiction and a murderous villain short story that you can read totally free on my website. Also, if you want Storyteller Hearth merch, go vote on the merch poll. The closing ceremony.
Yes. Oh yeah, closing ceremony. I watched the replay. I'm informed.
I got nothing to say. Other than
I'm gonna roll the outro.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, Casey. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. I was just saying I'm Casey. Goodbye.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Thank you, co-host, and thank you everybody who showed up watching. It's been real. Bye.
Stand well back from the platform edge. The next train, platform 5, does not stop here.